One, we meet our most colorful character, and Murray Pezza makes big promises.
And by the way, I'll turn it into a success, I promise you.
Every story needs a hero, and in Chapter 2, enter Doug Flutie, who brings a big name and high hopes to the West Coast. Flutie is brilliant at times, but not enough to get his team into the playoffs. And it looks as if this story may suddenly have a sad ending.
Don't try to cut off your inside foot on that slick grass. You got to cut off your outside foot.
In Chapter 3, the Lions get stability in the form of Coach Bob Obilovich. He takes over with 7 games remaining in the season. The Lions win 4 of them, and suddenly there's reason to believe that this story will have a happy ending after all. Chapter 4 is about the power of positive thinking, and there's plenty of that in Vancouver these days.
Well, this season the team's working on a lot more confidence coming off the second half of last year with Obi as the head coach, and just we're playing with a lot more confidence.
So how does this story end? Stay tuned. We'll show you page 1 when the Lions play host to the Calgary Stampeders. It's coming up live on TSN. Presents the CFL Game of the Week. Tonight's game brought to you by Diet 7-Up. It's cool to be clear. We're in the great indoors in Vancouver. BC places the side as the Lions open their season against the Calgary Stampeders. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another season of CFL football here on TSN. I'm Gord Miller. Last year, the Calgary Stampeders were hoping their season would end here at BC Place. It didn't. They lost to the Edmonton Eskimos in the Western Final. But in 1991, the Stamps are new and improved, especially on defense, where they've added a lot of team speed. The offensive unit is basically intact, so there's a lot of high hopes in Calgary. Yesterday, Coach Wally Buono said his group of quarterbacks is the best in the Canadian Football League. Quite a statement to make before they've played a single game in the season. Well, along with us from last year, our commentary team, John Wells and Lee Pedersen, and they join us now for their pregame thoughts.
All right, Gord, Bob Obilovich is starting to put his stamp of approval on the British Columbia Lions. He will go with Doug Flutie as his quarterback. He loves the way Flutie played, but he's made a lot of changes on defense to try and get a little more pass rush up front.
That's true, John. Bob Obilovich's stamp is good, solid defense, and last year the lack of pass rush really killed him. But this year he's changed it around. Only one returning veteran, and that is Dietrich Wise at the tackle spot. 3 newcomers. Stuart Hill, perennial CFL All-Star, led the league in sacks last year. Joe Campbell comes over from the World League of American Football, where he was second in sacks. And, of course, Gerald Bayless. Remember him? He was with the Toronto Argonauts a few years ago and involved in that Matt Dunnigan trade. Took all of last season off to heal up a wrist injury, but he is back. So at least on paper, this is a much better group now than when they finished the season in 1990.
Up front, you're absolutely right, but the adventure begins right behind those 4 gentlemen with a couple of brand new faces to Canadian football lining up for the Lions.
This is where it gets a little scary. Now, look at these 3 guys, 2 games experience between all of them, and they go to Paul Wetmore. The other 2 rookies, well, Bob Obilovich is asking a lot from these young fellas.
Lots of new faces on both sides of the football here tonight as we kick off the 1991 CFL season on TSN. You're going to meet a lot of those new faces tonight. Gord?
All right, the CFL season got underway earlier tonight at Lansdowne Park in Ottawa. Toronto beat Ottawa 35-18. We'll have highlights after the first quarter. A matchup we'll be keeping an eye on tonight. Derek Crawford, the wide receiver for the Calgary Stampeders, against Chris Major. Crawford was the Stamps' outstanding player last season with 15 touchdowns. The matchup is coming up next. It's BC, it's Calgary, and it's coming up live on TSN.
Welcome back to Vancouver for the 1991 season opener between the Calgary Stampeders and the BC Lions. The Stamps #1 in the West last year. The Lions were last. The Lions begin a new year with a questionable group and a lot of new faces. The 2 head coaches tonight, BC's Bob Obilovich and Calgary's Wally Buono, have the distinction of following Larry Kuharich into their current positions. Obilovich in his first full season with British Columbia last year, he was 4-3 in 7 games. Buono in his second full year gets credit for much of the improvement for the Calgary Stampeders. We're set to get underway. Welcome to a new year of Canadian football on TSN. This is Crawford on the kick return for the Calgary Stampeders. He was outstanding last season and gets Calgary off to a pretty good start with a 16-yard return.
of the keys for the Calgary Stampeders this year, will they be able to keep Danny Barrett healthy? He had a great start and then missed 6 games throughout the season with some leg problems, but Danny Barrett is the true inspirational leader of this club, and boy, if they can keep him healthy for 18 games, there's no telling what this club can do offensively.
Absolutely no doubt about that. The Stampeders 1st and 10. They begin from the Calgary 39. Barrett looks to the far side, has a man open, and comes up short of the first down on the completion to Crawford. Up front for the Stampeders, some new faces up there. Veterans Ken Moore and Bill Henry on the left side, and a rookie at center by the name of Pat Hines. And the outside receiver, Smith and Crawford inside. Moves Alan Pitts this year along with Sapunjas, Barrett the quarterback, and McVeigh and Keevan Jenkins are the runners for the Calgary Stampeders. This is 2nd and 2. And that's Keevan Jenkins, stopped by Stuart Hill, number 36.
What a great addition he is for the BC Lions. We talked in the opening about the lack of a pass rush, but Stuart Hill will certainly help in that department year after year. He has been an all-star. He's always around the sack leaders in the Canadian Football League. Last year he had 17, but here you see he's not blocked, slashes down and makes the play, and the Calgary Stampeders will come up a little bit short.
They're going to measure it anyway, Leaf, and just see how far the Stampeders have to go.
Came down with Stuart Hill. He was choosing between the Toronto Argonauts and the BC Lions, and I think what really won out in the end was the fact that he's from Washington, close to home, and the money wasn't a great deal different between the two clubs that they offered, so he decided to come to BC and be close to the folks at home.
So the Stampeders come up a little bit short, about half a yard, I'd say. So it'll be 3rd down, less than a yard to go for the Stampeders. They'll try and get out across the 50-yard line. Barrett keeps himself. He was stopped initially, but I think he might have enough for the first down. We'll wait and see. The Lions, of course, indicating otherwise.
It looked as though Dietrich Wise, number 78, got some early penetration and initially stopped Danny Barrett, but he slid off and certainly picked up enough for that first down. So the first gamble of 1991 pays off for Danny Barrett and the Calgary Stampeders, but there's the initial hit, and then he squirts free and picks up that first down.
1st and 10 Stampeders at the Calgary 50. This is Keevan Jenkins, and Jenkins caught behind the line by newcomer Andrew Thomas, number 21.
You know, we talked about the BC defense and all the newcomers, but Paul Wetmore did a great job. Let's have a look at these guys. Pass rush much improved. Stu Hill, Dietrich Wise, Gerald Bayless, and Joe Campbell. But here's the scary part, as we talked in our opening. A couple of rookies, O.J. Brigance and Zach Allen. The secondary, Ken Petway, comes over from the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Norman Jefferson and Chris Major return for their 2nd year for both of them starting on the corner.
Barrett on target for Pee Wee Smith, number 86.
Well, I look for some great things from Pee Wee Smith this year. He spent 6 games near the end of the season with the Stampeders. He's from the University of Miami in Florida, and he has excellent speed, 6'1", 180. Those are his numbers in a very abbreviated season from last year, but he has great speed. In fact, the training camp this year clocked a 4.3740, and that is pretty fast. Look for him to have a good year.
He has 14 yards, and the Calgary Stampeders have a first down. Now at the 46 of BC, Barrett. Time to throw, and on target for Alan Pitts, who lost it going out of bounds. Norm Jefferson over to make the tackle.
Bit of an adjustment this year for Alan Pitts. As you'll recall, he was a wide receiver in his rookie season with the Stampeders last year. This year he's been asked to move to the slot back spot. He's a great size for it at 6'4" and 200 pounds, and he finds the soft spot in the zone between Andrew Thomas and Norm Jefferson, settles into that area, and Danny Barrett is really on track in this opening drive as he delivers a perfect strike.
26 yards and a first down for the Stampeders. Threatening now at the BC 19. Barrett, time once more, looks to the corner. Sapunjas was the intended receiver with Petway covering. Dave Sapunjas started the last 9 games for the Stampeders in 1990.
And he would like to have another shot at that one because that was a sure touchdown. Good protection up front for Danny Barrett. That offensive line doing a good job picking up the blitz, Andy McVeigh, and that allows Barrett to throw a perfect strike to David Sapungis in his second year. And oh, would he like to have this one over again. That should have been 6.
2nd and 10 Calgary. BC 19. Pressure for Barrett to the corner once more. And he has his receiver. Major makes the stop on Derek Crawford, number 83.
That's a great throw by Danny Barrett. He had to let that thing fly before he really wanted to. Stuart Hill was right in his face, and just as Derek Crawford comes out of his break, the football is right there. I mean, you can't defense that any better, so it's a 15-yard pickup for Crawford. The drive keeps going, and boy, what a nice way to open up the season. Danny Barrett has put together a beautiful drive here.
1st down and goal to go from the BC Lion 4. Barrett keeps himself and has the touchdown. Dan Barrett gets the first touchdown of the year for the Calgary Stampeders, and Barrett engineered the drive from the opening kickoff.
Well, you don't do a drive any better than that, and I've always felt that Danny Barrett was one of the best high percentage quarterbacks, meaning that he doesn't take a lot of risks when he's out there, and that was a well-constructed drive, capping off with the quarterback draw 4 yards, and he's into the end zone, and what a way to begin the season. Same old problem for the BC Lions, though. Can't stop anybody. I mean, this is like the nightmare they went through last year.
Mark McLaughlin adds the extra points, and the Calgary Stampeders have a 7-0 advantage on the British Columbia Lions. We're at the stadium at BC Place, and the Stamps lead by a touchdown. Calgary's Danny Barrett, a very proud new father of Joshua Daniel, 9 months old, and Joshua Daniel has seen his dad's first CFL touchdown.
It's a great play to call down on the goal line. A lot of times you expect the blitz to come in that area vacated by the middle linebacker, and that's exactly what happened. Zach Allen was nowhere to be found, and Danny Barrett, to open up the season last year in spectacular fashion, does it again to start 1991 as he finishes a beautiful drive with his own touchdown.
A 70-yard drive for the Calgary Stampeders, and they get off to a hot start at BC Place. Tony Hunter awaits for the kickoff for the BC Lions, and Hunter gets out near the 35. He was met there by Mark Singer, 14-yard return. So bring on Doug Flutie, number 22 in his second CFL season. Almost 3,000 yards passing. The interception ratio a little higher than the touchdowns in 1990. But Flutie had a very good training camp and an excellent preseason, according to head coach Bob Obilovich. 1st and 10 Lions from the 35. Flutie over the middle. And the newcomer, Mike Trevathan, can't come up with a catch. Here's the offensive lineup for the BC Lions. Pretty much the same as last year up front. No changes whatsoever, in fact. Very solid front up there. Alexander and Hunter are the wide receivers. And inside, 2 newcomers from Montana. Flutie is the quarterback and a great new running back in the person of John Volpe. We'll see him tonight. They tell us he is something else, number 23. 2nd and 10. Flutie escapes the early pressure and heads for the sideline. Wrestled out there by Will Johnson, number 81.
Well, that'll count as a sack, too, for Will Johnson. Got Doug Flutie behind the line of scrimmage, and he keeps a very tremendous record intact. He coming into this game, Will Johnson, with 25 sacks in 26 CFL games, so he takes care of that early tonight and now has 26 and 27 games. Will Johnson, a CFL Western All-Star last year, off to a great start.
Enter Lou Pasaglia as the Lions turn it over quickly. It bounces away from Derek Crawford. Flags go down as Pee Wee Smith picks it up. We'll see if anybody got onside there. No, Lou Pasaglia was not upfield. A 32-yard kick.
Lou was on his back. Fans felt there should have been a roughing the kicker penalty, but not called. Nevertheless, there is a flag downfield a little farther. Ken Lazarek, the head referee tonight from Winnipeg. We might mention that 7 officials working the game tonight. Change from last year of only 6. Feel they can cover the field to make the calls a little bit better.
Yes, the newcomer is a side judge.
Calgary number 44. First down.
And that will allow officials to actually leap beyond target with every receiver upfield. So hopefully we'll get a little closer call.
It gives each official just a little better angle to see each play.
1st and 10 Stampeders. Sapunjas can't hang on. And the pass from Dan Barrett.
The Stamps' opening drive of the season results in a touchdown. 10 plays, 70 yards. The big gain was a completion to Alan Pitts from Danny Barrett, 26 yards, and Barrett takes it in for the touchdown as the Stamps open with a flourish.
There are some newcomers on the Calgary Stampeders, but as you mentioned earlier, they have improved with team speed, Leaf, particularly at linebacker with Alondra Johnson defensively. This is Keevan Jenkins on the run, and Jenkins out across the 35 to about the 37, stopped by Dietrich Wise, number 78.
Well, John, you know, as we look at both teams, obviously the BC Lions had to make some changes. They finished last year, but, you know, they made changes to try and replace poorer players. The enviable thing for Wally Buono is that he has made some changes to replace good players with even better players, and you made the perfect example. Alondra Johnson is now the middle linebacker replacing Joe Clossy. They have a lot more speed at that position now, a guy who can cover the passes. So they have improved, but boy, they've improved with some excellent football players.
Tony Hunter bobbles Brent Matich's punt, and there is really no return after a 32-yard kick that time. Leading the tacklers upfield for Calgary, Mark Singer. Calgary Stampeders out in front of the BC Lions, but it's early in the first quarter at the stadium at BC Place. Welcome back to opening night of the 1991 Canadian Football League season. Our game of the week live from the stadium at BC Place, and the Stampeders opened impressively on Bob Obilovich's British Columbia Lions. A 70-yard touchdown drive capped off by a 4-yard touchdown by Dan Barrett gives Calgary the 7-0 advantage. Bob Obilovich has made several changes to his football team defensively and a few on offense too. On the other side of the ball, the Calgary Stampeders, fewer changes, but they have strengthened particularly at middle linebacker with a former BC Lion, Alondra Johnson.
Well, Obi now is the general manager as well as the coach, so he's signing all the guys to the contracts, and he obviously couldn't come to terms with Willie Pless and Alondra Johnson, their fine linebackers, so they have moved elsewhere, and that is a weak area for them.
That's Chris Skinner for British Columbia. He gets across the 40-yard line. Zizakovic makes the tackle there. And here is what the Stampeders look like up front, with Ballard moving to the other side this year. Will Johnson, and then there's 2 Canadians, Zizakovic and Warnock, in the middle, and they have played very well. New linebacker in DeJuan Brandon. Alondra Johnson joins the team, and Matt Finley, the veteran, remains right where he was. 2nd and 7. Lions. And Flutie goes to the shotgun. Firing over the middle, intending that for Hunter.
Well, I tell you, Ronnie Hopkins, number 15, the cornerback, the left corner, had a super year in 1990, and that is just a great play that he made on Tony Hunter. Hunter trying to run the hook, and the KG veteran, Ronnie Hopkins, been around for 9 years now, and he's seen everything, and he reads that hook, reads Doug Flutie's eyes, and he breaks on the football quickly, and he's up to knock it away, and you cannot play the corner any better than Ron Hopkins just did right there.
So far, the BC Lions.
He can return the odd punt and kickoff, too, can't he?
Absolutely. I started to say the Lions have given it away rather quickly both times they've had possession of the ball. This is Crawford on the return for Calgary. And he gets some room to the outside. Derek Crawford pulled down from behind by Paul Wetmore, number 35. Could be a pretty good matchup tonight, Leaf.
Oh, it's a great matchup. Chris Major has established himself as a pretty good cornerback in this league, and Derek Crawford in only one season has really established himself as a deep threat. 11 touchdown receptions last year, 3 punt returns for touchdowns, so that's a matchup that we're going to follow, and in fact we'll hear from both players a little later on.
1st and 10 for Barrett and the Stampeders from the 50, coming back to the ball. Crawford cannot hang on. Chris Major covering.
Well, everything looked good. Good time to throw. Good strike by Danny Barrett. And you cannot run a hook pattern any better than Crawford did. Pushes Major deep and then works his way back to the quarterback, keeping that separation. And only one little problem.
Butterfingers.
And Chris is happy.
So it'll be 2nd and 10. Stampeders leading 7-0 on the BC Lions. Stamps beginning this drive from the 50, and there is movement everywhere. Maybe a little procedure call.
Well, it sure looked like Danny or Billy Henry, the left guard, moved just a little bit early, and that drew all the BC Lions. See if my eyes are working early in the season here.
Legal procedure. Calgary number 63. Second down repeated.
Way to go, Hawkeye. Bill Henry sat out all of last season. He had a hamstring injury. Played with the Saskatchewan Roughriders and the Tiger Cats before joining Calgary at the start of this season. He's played well.
And he's played for a lot of teams. He's been around for 6 years and already played for Saskatchewan, Hamilton, Winnipeg, and now Calgary.
This is 2nd and 15. Barrett straight back. And a chance for the interception by Zach Allen, number 44. Rookie out of Texas A&I.
That would have been a nice way to start his career. And, you know, often quarterbacks looking back, he was so intent, Danny Barrett was, on following Alan Pitts into the middle that he just didn't see Zach Allen dropping back into his zone coverage. And, in fact, threw it right to Allen, and he should have had an interception.
Matic has had a great CFL career already. Good kick. This is Tony Hunter on the return for the Lions. There's not much room to the outside as Kenton Leonard is over. A 39-yard kick and very little on the return for Tony Hunter. Well, we'll see if Doug Flutie can move the Lions a little bit this time. He's 0 for 2. Lions still looking for their first down.
Yeah, those numbers reflect into an 8.4-yard average last year, and that shows you, of course, his ability to run the football. And I think he has to do that with his offense for them to be successful.
Flutie gets it away for Matt Clark, number 85. Stopped by Matt Finley. And if you think we've got a few Matts out on the field, how about one other Matt Clark? There are 2 in the BC lineup. Slot back Matt Clark, number 85 from Montana, and number 39 linebacker Matt Clark. Clark with an E, a rookie from UBC. So we're going to have to call one Matthew, I hope, before this season is over. It could be a little confusing.
Or Matt and Matt E. Clark.
Matt E. Clark, that's not bad.
The one Clark, there you see him, number 85. The rookie slot back from Montana. In fact, 2 rookie slot backs starting for the BC Lions, both from Montana. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about them in just a minute.
From the 50, it is a first down for the Lions. And Flutie on target, but Junior Thurman was covering. And Hunter couldn't hang on.
Real veteran offensive line for the BC Lions. Leo Groenwagen working on the Warrior, Kent Warnock, who's had a couple of great seasons back-to-back, and that's a good job by Leo. Leo, of course, a former first-round pick way back in '87 with the Ottawa Roughriders, kicked around a little bit, but now has found a home on that very solid BC Lion offensive line.
2nd and 10 Lions now at the Calgary 50. And this is John Volpe, his first run as a professional in regular season play, stopped by Darrell Hall.
I talked to young John Volpe before the game, introduced myself, and had a chat with him. He is a real fire plug, 5'7", 195 pounds. I mean, he's got a huge chest on him. And I said, John, anything surprised you about this league so far in your 2 preseason games? He said, yeah, he said, this is by far, I mean, obviously the best offensive line I played behind, but he was just totally impressed by the size and experience and talent of his offensive lineman, and it showed in preseason. He had 177 yards rushing in 2 games.
111 against the Eskimos in 1. Crawford on the return for Calgary. And there is no room for Derek Crawford that time, as he was pinned by Derek McCready. Calgary Stampeders continue to lead the way in our TSN Game of the Week, but it's early in the first.
Well, Derek Crawford in a short time has become a real threat in the CFL at that wide receiver spot. And tonight he is involved in the feature matchup with Chris Major. We talked to him about that.
I think Chris is a great defensive back, and he's proven that he can go out and do the job. So my job is to go out and squeeze the cushion and take it away fast as possible.
And I will translate that for you, and what that means to squeeze the cushion is he wants to get off the line of scrimmage as fast as he can and close that separation to the cushion that Chris Major is going to give him. He feels the sooner he gets to Major, then he has him in problems, and he can make his break, either go deep to the out or to the hook. But to squeeze that cushion down means he wants to get to Chris Major as fast as he can.
Now, would you have any early predictions on who might win this matchup tonight?
I like this fella's chances right here. Now, he can fly. He's got great speed, great knack to get open. He catches the football well. There's very little about his game that you could find fault with. And these girls are going to have to do some serious cheering this year because of all the teams in the Western Conference, I would think the BC Lions would be the least favored to finish high in the standings.
Well, the BC Lions have a tough start. They're here against Calgary, move on against Winnipeg, then play Edmonton and Toronto in the first 4 games. So it's not an easy schedule for the Lions. This is 1st and 10. Calgary. And Keevan Jenkins is brought down by Zoc Allen and Andrew Thomas, 2 newcomers to that BC Lion defense.
Well, they're asking a lot of number 21, Andrew Thomas, this year. He's starting at the inside safety spot, and he does an excellent job right here. He's known as a pretty physical fellow, although he's only 5'11" and 185 pounds, but he fights off the block and really makes the initial play on Keevan Jenkins. Gets a little help, but Andrew Thomas did a nice job.
Jenkins lost a couple. This is 2nd and 12, and Barrett will throw over the middle on target for Pitts. And he should have the first down as he's out across the 20-yard line, stopped by O.J. Brigance.
Well, talk about consistency. Alan Pitts, in his first year last year, caught passes in 17 of 18 games. He ended up with a total of 65, which led all rookie receivers in the Canadian Football League. And I think the greatest feature about him is that size, 6'4", 200. And for an inside receiver, you ask Danny Barrett, makes it a lot easier to find a big, tall guy like Allen.
1st and 10. Stampeders at the 24. Far side. Major and Crawford. Crawford made the catch, but Major had him pretty well subdued there.
Pretty good call on first down, though. You know, Major's giving him a pretty good cushion, so run the little hitch pass. Let him. It's an easy pass to complete. Then you get a good gain of almost 7 yards on first down. And Danny Barrett has really found a good rhythm here in the first quarter. And that's the matchup, of course, that we will follow all night for you. And so far, slight edge going to Derek Crawford.
2:34 to go in the opening quarter in Vancouver. 2nd and 4 for the Stampeders, and Pitts can't bring that one down. Covered by Andrew Thomas, number 21.
Toughest pass in football to catch. When you're going to the sidelines and you've got to look back over your shoulder, it's extremely difficult to locate the football for starters, and extremely difficult for the quarterback. He doesn't know whether to feather it into you or throw it on a line as Danny Barrett did there, but you know, he got his hands on it, but that was an extremely tough catch to make.
Brent Manich ready again. Steps across the 20 and left foots this one to Tony Hunter back at his 30. And there's a flag down as Hunter escapes. They'll bring it back. Who did they catch? Remy Trudel.
Yeah, really a stupid play, too. You know, the coaches will tell you, though, they're blue in the face. If you can't hit the guy in the front, do not hit him in the back. And, of course, Remy Trudel did that. A 47-yard punt with a beautiful 26-yard return will go for naught. Pretty dumb play by Remy Trudel, and this fine return will get called back. And once again, the BC Lions will start deep in their own territory. That's why Tony Hunter's playing tonight. It's for that punt returning ability, probably more than his wide receiver ability. They feel that he handles the football back there just a little bit better than some of the other fellas, and that's why he is in there.
Volpe on 1st and 10 from the 20, and there's not much running room for the rookie from Stanford there. Stopped by Alondra Johnson.
It was interesting to hear Wally Buono talking to his defensive lineman about Doug Flutie. He said, make sure you contain him. Don't fall for that inside move. And he said, Flutie is not effective throwing for the pocket. Don't go for the sack. Just keep him in the pocket.
I think that's great advice for Wally Buono. Of course, he was a great linebacker in the league for so many years with the Montreal Alouettes. But, you know, Flutie's not going to kill you from standing back in the pocket. His running ability is really going to hurt you, and I think that's great advice.
2nd and 8, but Flutie is on target this time, and that's Tony Hunter out across the 45. Matt Finley over to make the tackle after a 22-yard gain. Junior Thurman was in to help out, too. Biggest play of the night for the Lions.
Well, it really was. Doug Flutie got excellent pass protection from his line. Lots of time to throw. Good lane right there to see to. I mean, Flutie's not the tallest guy at 5'10", but that time a lane opened up between his left guard and left tackle, and he picked out Tony Hunter, and well, that's a nice pass play to complete. Gets you out of the shadow of your own goalpost and a little breathing room out to the 45.5.
Where it is 1st and 10 Lions, and Flutie looks to throw again. Coming across, Mike Trevathan.
Mike Trevathan is part of the Montana combination starting for the BC Lions tonight. He, number 77, his other buddy, number 85, Matt Clark, the other slot back. The two of them both graduated from Montana last year. In fact, were one. Mike is the leading all-time receiver in Montana history. Mike Trevathan right there, and his buddy Matt Clark, he's number 3 all-time. So a couple of youngsters getting a chance to shine here.
This is John Volpe, and Volpe gets across the 45 and down to about the 42. Finley is there for the Stampeders. It'll be a gain of 6.
Well, Bob Abilovich likes to compare John Volpe to a bit of a bigger Mike Clements, and you know, if he can be half as good as a Mike Clements, I think Obi would be satisfied.
He says he's bigger, stronger, and faster than Pinball Clemens and Gil Finnerty as well.
Well, the one thing, though, he's not yet is better.
Flutie airs out for Hunter. And he had double coverage that time.
Yeah, he seemed to hesitate on that one, too, but nevertheless, Doug Flutie getting something established as we come to the close of the first quarter.
The Calgary Stampeders lead it by a touchdown. The BC Lions coming alive late in the opening quarter at the stadium at BC Place. 7-0 after 1. Welcome back to our TSN Game of the Week. The Stampeders in front of the BC Lions, 7-0. And we're ready for Lou Pasaglia on 3rd and 2. This is Ron Hopkins. And he bobbled the ball. It trickles out at the 7-yard line. So the Stamps will start from deep in their own zone to begin the second quarter.
Calgary leads the game 7-0 and had a pretty good edge in play in that first quarter, although BC did put together the drive late in the quarter. The good news for BC, I suppose, is that it could have been worse.
Well, that's a good point. It seemed like Calgary controlled the ball and ran it and threw it all over the field, but the BC Lions find themselves only down by 7, and they have a chance to trap Calgary deep in their own end here as the Stampeders start deep in their own territory.
1st and 10 Calgary from the 6. Barrett for Keevan Jenkins, and that play was read well by the BC Lions. Gerald Bayless, number 4, making the tackle.
How about Gerald, number 4? I mean, that's kind of an unusual number for a defensive lineman to wear. Any logic behind this one? Or
I don't know what there possibly could be as far as a logical explanation for a number 4 on a player in a position that usually up there in the 70s, 80s, 90s.
Well, he had some great years in Toronto.
Barrett looking for Phil Collins, number 21, and Ken Petway had the play well read. Stampeders are very excited about the play of number 21, Phil Collins, so far. He's from southwestern Missouri. 5'9", 170.
I'm going to take care of this right away. He can sing, too. Danny Barrett told me he's Got the great voice for doing the gospel songs and everything, so we'll take care of that right now. Phil can not only play football, he can sing.
Don't know if he plays the drums, though, like the other Phil Collins. Tony Hunter on the return for BC. He had problems with it early and really doesn't come up with much of a run, or much of a return, I should say. Platney and Kenton Leonard making the stop, a 54-yard punt that time.
Brent Matich, premier punter in the league in my book, and he did a super job kicking Calgary out of trouble. And that allows Doug Flutie the opportunity to get back in the game. And it's going to be a long night for Doug Flutie because Calgary's the kind of defense that they really make you put a lot of plays together to score. They're a defense that has enough pressure up front with their front four that they can drop the 3 linebackers and 5 defensive backs off and play zone. They make you take small bites out of their defense, and you have to put a lot of plays together to score.
Flutie pumped once and found Trevathan, number 77, in front of Ron Hopkins that time. And it'll be another British Columbia first down.
Mike Trevathan's credentials from Montana are impeccable. Last year in college football, 71 receptions, and that's a pretty high number for football in U.S. college. Well, if he can pan out at 6'1", 205, he could be a very nice addition. Of course, Jay Christensen, the starting slot back, out with a hamstring injury. Don't forget about him. He had a super 1,000-yard season last year. He should be ready to play soon.
Another newcomer, John Volpe, stopped by Walter Ballard and Charles Anthony, the only new member of the Stampeder secondary, number 11. They mark Volpe with a gain of 5. Charles Anthony, UNLV, good athletes.
Well, he must be, because he beat out a Western All-Star last year, David McCrary, and they tell me he's a pretty tough customer. 6'2", 195, a running rebel from UNLV, so we'll watch for him.
On 2nd and 5, Volpe takes the pass from Doug Flutie and gets inside the 40 to about the 38. Stopped by Hopkins and Junior Thurman.
That's the perfect pattern against the Calgary defense. 3-man pattern to the wide side of the field, and hopefully with the wide receiver and slot back clearing out against that zone, you can sneak your running back out into the flat. And it's a long way for Alondra Johnson to go and for Junior Thurman to come up and cover. And good play selection by Doug Flutie. Boy, he is quick, Alondra Johnson, though. He's going to help that defense from sideline to sideline. He's as fast as any linebacker in the league.
Lions first down at the 38. Flutie has time as he rolls right. Coming back to make the catch is Trevathan once more. Number 77.
He's having a good first half, and that's a pretty veteran move that he just made for a young fellow. And he saw Flutie in trouble. He was running a hook deep downfield, and he worked his way back to the quarterback, as all receivers are taught. He found once again another open area, and that allowed Flutie to get the football to him and keep this drive going. But that's a super job by a young receiver.
Gain of 6 yards. This is 2nd and 4. Lions at the Calgary 31. Same side of the field and underthrown that time. Intended for Matt Clark.
It's too easy. I mean, he had him wide open. Matt Clark, good little quick out pattern. Flutie, all he had to do was just feather that thing in there, but took a little off it to make sure it was on target, and by taking a little off it, threw it into the ground. Well, Matt, you didn't do anything wrong. There he's talking to Jay Christensen on his right, and Jay, as we just talked, had a super season last year, over 1,000 yards, and he will be back shortly.
Enter Lou Pasaglia, a 38-yard field goal tried. And the Lions are on the board. The all-time professional football scoring leader, Lou Pasaglia, has the Lions back in it. They trail 7-3 early in the second quarter.
First impression.
Well, our featured matchup tonight involves Chris Major and Derek Crawford, and Chris Major has established himself as a pretty good cornerback in the league, and we talked to him about his impressions of playing against Derek Crawford tonight.
Well, Derek's a good receiver. He has good speed. He runs good routes, and it's going to be a good game for us. And I'm just going to have to play my techniques inside or outside, or even if I put in a situation where I have to play bump against him, I'm just going to have to play good, aggressive defense against him, and always be on my toes, because he's a good receiver and he runs good routes.
Well, I think Chris understands that when he's playing against a receiver like Derek Crawford, Crawford's going to catch some balls on him. I mean, that's a fact of life. But what I think Chris Major really has to do is when Crawford catches them and he's around him, try and punish him. I mean, really try and hurt him after he makes that catch and maybe make his mind wander just a little bit. John, I don't know if you recall, Chris Major a few years ago made his debut with the Calgary Stampeders in a game against Hamilton, and he was going to play against Tony Champion, and I forget who the other wide receiver was, and you and I were saying, whoa, what a tough spot for a young cornerback to come into the league and start off against Champion. What did he do? Had a couple of interceptions in his first pro game ever.
Great way to begin it. Short kickoff. Andy McVeigh for the Calgary Stampeders out about the 43-yard line. Andrew Thomas, another BC newcomer, made the tackle that time, so entered Dan Barrett once more. He got the Stampeders on the board on the very first offensive possession, an impressive 70-yard drive. And since then, the BC Lion defense has toughened up. Barrett hasn't been able to move the Stampeders quite as effectively. From the 43, Barrett on first down. That one is into the turf right at midfield, intended for Derek Crawford.
You know, a lot of people look at Danny Barrett and the first thing they think about is, oh, what a great runner he is. And granted, yes, he can run the football, and I think he's a very effective doing that. But, you know, last year he had one game against the Ottawa Rough Riders where he threw for 446 yards passing. And, of course, that was the single high season game for any quarterback in the CFL last year. A nice distinction for Danny.
2nd and 10, Stampeders at the 43. Barrett gets pressure, and he's down. Dietrich Wise, second-year player out of Jackson State.
Well, it sure didn't happen too many times last year, but as we've talked, the front four of the BC Lions is a much improved group, and Dietrich Wise, the only returning member of that group, gets the first sack of the season for the BC Lions. And in 11 games last year, he had a couple of sacks. In fact, he was voted by the sports writers in the Vancouver area as the top rookie on that BC Lion team.
So the Stampeders on 3rd down kick it away. A collision, Jefferson and Hunter. And there's no return. Who's got the football? Well, that time no one made the catch. Kenton Leonard upfield for Calgary to finish off any threat of a return. Doug Flutie, a 52% passer in his first season in Canadian football. 16 touchdowns, 19 interceptions, 2,960 yards. Ups and downs, but he did get the BC Lions moving.
What I like is the 16 touchdowns. You know, the 19 interceptions tells me he was willing to take a chance and throw the football to try and create something. And so, you know, I don't really worry about that 19 interceptions he had last year. It was a learning experience, and he'll be a lot better this year.
Tony Hunter made that catch in front of Junior Thurman. And the gain is 6.
You got no place to go.
Steve Wise!
You go underneath and get the up back. I got to get possession.
Actually, 2nd and 4 here. Flutie gets time to throw once more, and Hunter, check that, Ray Alexander can't bring it down, number 88, in front of Junior Thurman.
Ray Alexander running a quarter panner against Junior Thurman. There he breaks it to the inside and then back to the outside. Actually a good recovery by Junior Thurman, and then the size factor comes into effect. Alexander at 6'4", Junior Thurman at only 6 foot, but Thurman with good jumping ability able to get up and break that pass up.
Lou Pasaglia once more on 3rd and 4. Pasaglia stands back at his 30. And Crawford waits back at his 20. High. Crawford up to the 30. And he is well covered by a couple of BC Lions. Derek McCready and Matt Clark, number 39, were there to corral Crawford that time. The Lions trail the Calgary Stampeders by 4. It's 7-3 in the second quarter.
Week 1 of the CFL season is a busy one for us at TSN. Tomorrow will be at Taylor Field in Regina as Saskatchewan plays host to Edmonton. And then it's on to Iverwin Stadium in Hamilton on Saturday. The Ticats take on the defending Grey Cup champion Blue Bombers. And before that game, we'll have our season opener of the CFL report featuring the debut of the Homeboys, featuring CFL MVP Mike the Pinball Clements. I think you'll enjoy it.
Down that road again.
It's a busy, busy week.
I can't wait to get on that road again. We are doing
Willie.
some traveling.
Yes, off to Taylor Field tomorrow. And then to Iverwin Stadium.
Hey, how about that 66 Grey Cup reunion with the Rough Riders? And we'll get to see a lot of familiar faces when we get to Regina tomorrow. I'm really looking forward to it.
Stampeders on first down, and Barrett just off target. Coverage by Norman Jefferson. Crawford was the intended receiver.
Well, here's Joe Campbell, the newcomer from the World League of American Football. He was with New York, New Jersey, and no chance for him to get in. Ken Moore, a nice job blocking on Joe Campbell. Let's make that Lloyd Fairbanks, the veteran. That's a nice matchup. Lloyd Fairbanks, been around 17 seasons, handles the newcomer pretty easily.
On 2nd and 10, Barrett looks to midfield and has his man in front of Jefferson. Making the catch, Pee Wee Smith. Number 86.
Pee Wee Smith, I expect great things, as I mentioned before, from him. He's very comfortable. Had a chance to have a training camp now with the Calgary Stampeders, and a good style of offense for Danny Barrett. Roll him out with that ability to run, and great sight lines downfield. No big guys in front of you to look over, and he hits Pee Wee Smith. There's the veteran Lloyd Fairbanks and Joe Campbell, and a pretty good takedown right there. And Joe reacts, as you might imagine, when somebody grabs you and throws you down somewhat illegally.
After a gain of 22, it is first down Calgary. Barrett inside for Crawford, and that one went right through his mitts. He might have heard Mr. Major coming.
Well, you know, that's what I talked about. It's as simple as this. Crawford's going to catch balls, no question about that, but Chris Major has to make him pay for it. And boy, Derek Crawford could feel Chris breathing down his neck, and he came in and put a really good hit on Crawford and stopped him from making that catch. Boy, I like that kind of defense. Chris, nice job.
So it is 2nd and 10 Calgary now.
Chris Major, former Calgary Stampeder, playing against some of his old pals tonight.
Barrett over the middle, and Sapunjas has his first catch of the game inside the 40-yard line in front of Ken Petway, number 8.
First pick by the Stampeders last year from the University of Western Ontario, and David Sapunjas, 9 starts last year, now getting an opportunity to start on a day-to-day basis. 16-yard catch right there. Should have had a touchdown back in the first quarter, but we'll forget about that. That's the last time I'll bring it up, David.
First down Stampeders now at the BC 37 to the far side for Pee Wee Smith. He has room, and Smith races inside the 20 down to about the 15 before he's forced out by Zach Allen and Robin Belanger.
That's the third time tonight that Danny Barrett has thrown that hitch to his wide receivers on first down, and it really creates some problems for the defense. Norman Jefferson, if he doesn't make the tackle as he misses there, then Pee Wee Smith is able to pick up a lot of extra yardage, and an excellent call once again by Danny Barrett.
Looking to the end zone, and no catch. Crawford, the intended receiver, and Chris Major was helping out with coverage on the play.
Well, I'd call that matchup just about even. Now, Chris Major with a good hit a few plays ago, and now up over the top, and his contact with Crawford stops him from making the catch. So I think we got a pretty even matchup at this point.
2nd and 10 Stampeders from the BC 12. Barrett looks to the end zone once more, the same matchup, and Barrett is off target that time. Crawford looking a little frustrated at tight coverage by Chris Major right now.
Well, I think Danny Barrett would be a little disappointed. The blitz was coming, they picked it up, and this is what you want. I mean, isolation one-on-one with your best receiver against the corner, and boy, Chris Major really does a nice job on Crawford. Maybe held him just a touch.
Just a little tug on the old sweatshirt.
Well, obviously not enough to throw the flag, and boy, listen, Major's taking over this matchup now. He's in the lead.
Mark McLaughlin from 19 yards away, and the Stampeders have their first field goal of the evening here at BC Place. Stamps increasing the lead to 7 points. with 5:17 remaining in the second quarter. Calgary leading British Columbia 10-3.
Coming up at halftime, we'll have CFL highlights of the Argo-Ottawa game from Lansdowne Park. We'll have our first Between the Lines feature this season. You think cheerleading's easy? Well, we'll take a look behind the scenes with the BC Lions cheerleaders, and John and Leaf will have their first half analysis.
In the meantime, we have 5 minutes, 17 seconds remaining till the halftime break. Stampeders set to kick off after Mark McLaughlin's field goal. Short kick. Mike Maresco stopped by Paul Clapney. And the Lions have decent field position to begin this drive with from the 42 of BC. See if Doug Flutie can move this football team once more. He has engineered a field goal so far, but he's moved the Lions rather effectively in the last couple of sequences, Leaf.
I'd like to see him run more, though. You know what happens? Flutie's been a pro now for 6 years, and originally he did a lot of running. And what happens to so many quarterbacks, the longer they play, the less they really want to run. And I think in his case, he needs to run a little more, although when he throws passes like that to Matt Clark, he doesn't have to run.
It moves the football upfield a little more quickly when you make contact like this. Flutie for Clark.
Great time to throw from the offensive line, and Matt Clark does a good job to shield off the defensive back, number 11, Charles Anthony. A couple of rookies going against each other, and a nice 26-yard reception for young Matt Clark.
1st and 10 at the 43. And that one was off target as Darcy Kopp had a shot at an interception.
Well, Darcy Kopp getting a chance to start this year at the middle safety spot. Normally a tremendous special teams player over the last few years for the Calgary Stampeders. This 5-year veteran now getting a chance to start in the middle, and he puts a pretty good hit on young Mike Trevathan.
2nd and 10, Lions at the Stampeder 43. Wide open, Chris Skinner, touchdown! What a perfect play. So Flutie should run, huh?
Next time. You watch Darcy Kopp, number 32, whom we just talked about, moves up on the blitz, and he's up at the line of scrimmage. Flutie recognizes that the middle is wide open. Chris Skinner from his fullback spot down the middle of the field with a nice catch, and the first touchdown of the season for not only Chris Skinner but the BC Lions. A 42-yard catch, and boy, Flutie made that look pretty easy.
2 nice passes by Doug Flutie, including the touchdown toss to Chris Skinner. The touchdown converted by Lou Pasaglia. And the Lions are even again. 10-10, second quarter.
Well, the Calgary Stampeders are not normally a blitzing and a risk-taking kind of defense, and the one time they try and do it with Darcy Kopp coming up on the line of scrimmage, give the BC Lions credit. Doug Flutie read it perfectly. Chris Skinner was in the right spot, and they came off with a nice pass and run combination, and the BC Lions have tied this football game up.
Chris Skinner, a happy guy at this particular point in time. He's from Bishops in his second year with the Lions, 8th in the CFL, and a squib kick going to Andy McVeigh. McVeigh out across the 50. He's to midfield and across and into BC territory at about the 52. Stopped by number 44, Zach Allen. Wally has smiled a bit more on the sidelines at other times.
Well, the momentum of this game has kind of shifted around a little bit. It's really been all Calgary up until that last scoring drive from the BC Lions, and now it's like starting all over again. 10-10 in the second quarter.
1st and 10, Stampeders, BC 54. Barrett on target over the middle for Alan Pitts. And Pitts has some running room as he slips to the outside. Is finally forced out by O.J. Brigance and Robin Boulanger.
The drive covered 68 yards, 42 of them come on the touchdown pass to Chris Skinner, and those 1 minute and 13-second drives, just what the Lions needed.
That one's for you. We're for real this year. Take it easy. We'll talk to you later.
Chris Skinner right on cue. How about that?
Nice young man. 8 years ago, he graduated from Bishop's University and has had a very productive CFL career.
Barrett goes deep, and Smith was the intended receiver. Norman Jefferson was with Pee Wee Smith, stride for stride.
Well, you know all about Pee Wee. He can fly, but Norman Jefferson, number 12, stays with him stride for stride. And had that ball been on target, I think Jefferson was in pretty good position to make a play on it. Norman Jefferson's a great story. The last player picked in the 1987 U.S. College Draft, taken by the Green Bay Packers, number 335. He made the team, played a couple of years on special teams, but the last guy taken makes the club.
2nd and 10, and Barrett comes close to a first down on that connection with Alan Pitts in front of Robin Belanger. Also over to help out was Andrew Thomas, number 21. You see where they spot that, Leaf. Pitts actually came back to make the catch, or after making the catch. It is 10-10 with 2:58 to play in the opening half. And when we return, the Calgary Stampeders will have a first down. All even at 10. Good matchup at BC so far.
This game is tied at 10, and here is how it happened. The Stampeders opened the scoring on their initial drive of the football game. Danny Barrett capped it off with a 4-yard run to make it 7-0. The Lions got their first points early in the second quarter. Lou Pasaglia with the field goal made it 7-3. The Stampeders came back as Mark McLaughlin kicked a 19-yarder to make it 10-3 Calgary, but then Doug Flutie hooked up with Chris Skinner, the biggest player of the game so far, covered 42 yards and tied the game at 10, and that's where we are now with 2:58 to play in the second quarter.
We'll add to that it is a first down for the Calgary Stampeders, threatening once more. 1st and 10. Stamps at the BC 27. Barrett for Crawford, and he was out. Chris Major covering once more. There is a flag down in the BC secondary.
Holding. Calgary number 63. First down, repeat it.
First-year Stampeder Bill Henry was caught that time. Missed all of last year with a hamstring. Made the Stampeders along with another former Saskatchewan player, Ken Moore, the left guard and left tackle of the Calgary Stampeders.
Now, Billy Henry has the unenviable tasks of blocking Gerald Bayless tonight, and I'm sure on many occasions he will be holding him. That particular one he got caught.
2nd and 20 as Barrett goes over the middle. A flag comes down. Petway was covering. Sapunjas, the intended receiver. You got it.
Forward pass interference. BC number 8. First down.
Petway. The coverage too close. You'll see here.
Spent the last 4 years with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and came over near the end of training camp. In fact, has had not too many practices with the Calgary Stampeders, but I think he got there a little before the football did.
So new life for this Stampeder drive. It goes from 2nd and 20 to 1st and 10 at the 29. Barrett with time over the middle. Keevan Jenkins, big yardage as he crashes inside the 15. Stopped there by Paul Whitmore. Another Stampeder first down. 11 yards for Keevan Jenkins.
Well, the Calgary offense has really shown about everything they can to the BC Lions here in the first half. They haven't run a screen. That's about the only thing they haven't done. They've hit their backs as they do. Keevan Jenkins over the middle. They've thrown the bomb, the hooks. And Keevan Jenkins picked up a nice 11 yards there.
From the Lions 13, first down Calgary. Barrett escapes from some trouble, has the end zone, and has the touchdown. That's 2 for Barrett. Not too many Stampeder fans here tonight, but there are a couple in this rather unfriendly crowd.
Well, we've never questioned the ability of Danny Barrett to run with the football, and that time a good lane opens up for him. He can't find anybody open downfield, so as he has done so well in the past, he does this time, runs it into the end zone, takes charge himself, and as John told you, his second touchdown of the night.
13-yard touchdown for Dan Barrett. McLaughlin's point after is good.
And doesn't it always seem that the good teams answer a score right away? Doug Flutie drives the BC Lions down and a touchdown pass to Chris Skinner, and then on the ensuing kickoff, Danny Barrett returns the favor as he drives the Stampeders down, and they once again take the lead on a pretty good effort by Danny.
And that drive kept alive on an interference call on Ken Petway. That was 2nd and 20, Leaf. A big turnaround right there.
Good job.
Well, that'll be the tough thing for the BC Lions tonight. They cannot beat themselves, and of course giving the Stampeders a second chance on that drive was the key play probably in the drive. But boy, it's tough enough playing against a good offensive team like Calgary without giving them second chances.
It's 17-10. Stampeders leading the Lions with 2:15 to go till halftime. Tony Hunter on the return for BC. And he gets out to the 40-yard line. Stopped there by Darrell Hall. 19 yards on the return.
Calgary comes right back and answers that BC touchdown. The drive covers 58 yards, and as John mentioned, the big play was the interference call on Ken Petway. Danny Barrett with his second touchdown of the ball game goes in from 13 yards out.
Been a well-played first half, though. You know,
I've enjoyed it, yeah.
You often forget that there used to be 4 preseason games to get ready. Now, in the last few years, only a couple. So really not a great deal of time for all these clubs to get ready for the season. And I've been impressed with the way both teams have played here in the first half.
Chris Skinner, and he is caught behind the line. The 35 by Dewan Brandon. Dewan.
Okay, whatever you say, Dewan Brandon, a rookie from Northern Arizona in his first professional game tonight. And makes a nice play to trap Chris Skinner behind the line of scrimmage on that attempted screen.
On 2nd and 15, Flutie releases far side for Ray Alexander. And he is back to the original line of scrimmage and no more. Stopped there by Ron Hopkins.
That's the tough thing about the Calgary Stampeders. You know, if they get an offense in second and long situations time after time, they will make it very difficult for the BC Lions tonight, because 2nd and 14 against that zone defense that they play so well, where they squeeze down the lanes, and boy, BC will have to get better production on first down if they want to stay in this game.
Here's Lupus Saglia once more. Standing at his 25. Derek Crawford and Pee Wee Smith wait back near their 25. This is Pee Wee Smith on the return. Chooses the near side. Flags are down as Smith escapes, but they'll call this one back. Saglia over to force Smith out. Who do they catch with the illegal block? Was it Clatney?
Paul Clatney could not stand to pass him up, hit him right in the back, and now a good game will come back. For the life of me.
Legal block. Calgary number 29. First down.
Can never figure out why the guys have trouble passing up a guy that they know they're going to hit in the back, and they know the referees are standing right there, and you're going to see it. There's the block. Pretty flagrant. So a good return gets called back, and Calgary has to start deep in their own territory.
45-yard punt by Pasaglia that time. 1st and 10. Stamps back at the 17. Barrett for Pitts. Stopped short of the first down up near the 25. And stopped by Andrew Thomas and Norman Jefferson.
John Hufnagel there in your screen with the black jacket on is the offensive coordinator for the Calgary Stampeders, and You know that the Calgary quarterbacks, Terrence Jones and Danny Barrett, are always getting some good advice when they come off the field from John Helfnagel, one of the best quarterbacks to ever play in our league, and now doing a great job in his offensive coordinator capacity with the Stampeders.
Close to the final minutes. 2nd and 3. Barrett for Crawford. Major got to it, but there was really no play there. Pass was underthrown. 56 seconds till a half.
Well, when he took over this team last year of Bababilovic, it was in total disarray, and no question he has added some stability to the organization, and slowly he'll mold his team and get the right personnel in here. It might not happen early in the season, but slowly this will be a much improved football team, no question about that.
On the return, Tony Hunter, met there by Kenton Leonard, number 30. So 45 seconds for the BC Lions to try and hit the end zone under the direction of this man, Doug Flutie. Impressive march last time for the touchdown to Chris Skinner. Lions first down. BC 47. Flutie from the shotgun. Over the middle for Matt Clark. Short of the first down. Alondra Johnson, a former BC Lion, making the stop.
I've really been impressed with the time that Doug Flutie's had to throw the football against his offensive line, a veteran group working against the tremendous front four the Calgary Stampeders have, and they have given Flutie all kinds of time to throw that football.
Once more, Clark, and he has the first down this time with 30 seconds to go until halftime. Matt Finley making the tackle for Calgary.
And the offensive line puts together a beautiful pocket once again for Doug Flutie, and boy, as they go to the hurry-up offense with 27 seconds left, they've got a pretty good drive going.
Intended for Clark once more, or was it Alexander? Both receivers were in the area, number 85 and number 88. So 23 seconds till halftime now.
Now they're about one first down away from a legitimate chance for Lou Pasaglia to attempt a field goal. A pretty important down here, 2nd and 10 for the Lions.
This is John Volpe, and he is met by Will Johnson, number 81. Johnson had him down for a second. He got up, but Harold Hasselbach finished him off. 15 seconds till halftime. Lions call a timeout to think this one over. 17-10, Calgary leading.
Well, it looks as though they're going to bring Lou Pasaglia in, and I don't know if he can hit one from this far out. What do you think? I mean, no disrespect to Louis, he's had a tremendous career, but this will be from 52 yards roughly, and I don't know.
Well, he's hit from 52 in his career. We'll see what Lou can do here. A couple short. Hopkins on the return, surrounded by BC Lions with 5 seconds till a half.
Well, it was a good try, but I think Louis would not argue with me when I say 52 might be a little out of his range at this point in his career.
Pro Football's all-time scoring leader coming into the game with 2,312 points.
Well, he's been at it for 16 years.
He has an understudy this year, number 2, Julio Caravata, punter, kicker, and quarterback from SFU. Into the final seconds of the opening half. Dan Barrett content to run out the clock. They've still got 1 second remaining on the clock unofficially. Entertaining first half of football. We remember back to the opening game of the 1990 CFL season between these two teams 1 year ago. That ended in a 38-38 overtime tie. This one at the half ends in a 17-10 Stampeder lead over the BC Lions. Stay with us for the halftime show, and Gord Miller coming up in just a moment.
Calgary leads BC 17-10 after the first half in the season opener for both teams on the CFL Game of the Week. Each game this year at halftime, we've got a new feature for you. It's called Between the Lines, a look behind the scenes of CFL games at things you don't normally see. Tonight in our first installment, behind the scenes with some CFL newcomers in uniform, but they're not players.
BC Place, 2 hours before the Lions host the Saskatchewan Roughriders. One of the evening's performers is arriving. Julie is a 19-year-old college student from White Rock, British Columbia, and she's a BC Lions cheerleader. This game is special for two reasons. It's the Lions' home opener, and it's Julie's CFL debut.
I can't wait to get out on the field and cheer and see the game.
In the same way the Lions had to fight for their jobs at training camp, Julie and her 29 teammates had to compete to make their squad. They prevailed over 120 other prospective Lions cheerleaders.
Well, I've been studying dancing for a long time, and my older sister cheered for a couple of the CFL teams, and she really encouraged me to come out.
As the game approaches, the Lions prepare themselves to battle the Roughriders. Down the hall, Julie and the rest of the cheerleaders are preparing themselves for the game.
What is that stuff? It's optimum stuff.
You know what you should do? You should get that shiny stuff that you put in your hair so your hair sparkles.
Their ages range from 18 to 26. Some are students, others have full-time jobs to supplement the $30 a game they make as a cheerleader.
I guess in the beginning it's just a little bit staticky because no one really knows each other, but we've all gotten to get to know each other really well.
Besides performing at football games, the cheerleaders will make an additional 160 appearances around the province this year.
We all go out to a lot of functions and outside of cheerleading, and all the girls, we all get along really well.
30 minutes before kickoff, Julie and the rest of the cheerleaders make their way towards the field.
I'm looking forward to it when it finally starts. It's funny, I just can't believe it's finally here after months and months of strenuous training.
The attendance for tonight's game will be almost 22,000. For a rookie cheerleader about to perform in public for the first time, it seems more like 122,000.
It's finally here, and when we're finally in the tunnel, we'll just be ready to get out there and cheer for their team.
The Lions cheerleaders have a repertoire of 20 cheers. Each one will be performed approximately 3 times during the game. During timeouts and at the end of each quarter, the cheerleaders will do their dance numbers. The game winds down, and as hard as the players have worked on the field, the cheerleaders and their 19-year-old rookie have worked just as hard on the sidelines.
It was a great time, and we had the crowd going, and we won. We had a good time.
And I can tell you, I kept a close eye on Julie in the first half. She was solid. We'll be back to Murray's Place, otherwise known as BC Place, in just a moment. But first, some CFL trivia for you. Which player in tonight's game played 11 games for the Bears in 1987 before retiring to become a police officer? We'll tell you when we come back. Games for the Chicago Bears in 1987 before retiring in 1988 to become a police officer. It is none other than Will Johnson, who came out of retirement in '89 and who was a CFL All-Star last year for the Calgary Stampeders. Been a pretty good first half here at BC Place. Pretty error-free football, in fact, and a pretty close game. Let's go upstairs for some first half analysis. Here are John Wells and Lee Petters.
All right, Gord, the Stampeders lead at 17-10. At the outset, we talked about the BC Lions trying to improve their pass rush. Did they do that in the opening half?
Well, they did a better job, but I don't think as well as they would like to. Obviously not on the first drive. Danny Barrett took the ball down the field, and they got off to a nice start, 7-zip, but it got a little better. Here, the returning veteran Dietrich Wise picks up the first sack for the Lions, so it did improve just a touch.
Now, Doug Flutie answers that with an impressive drive capped off by this to Skinner.
Well, Calgary took a chance. They blitzed Darcy Kopp. The middle was open. Skinner found it, and 42 yards later, they had their first touchdown of the night.
And it didn't take Barrett long to respond with this.
Now, Danny Barrett's a great runner, and of course, you know, he has good vision downfield. A lane opened up for him. All the receivers covered, so he scampers 13 yards into the end zone, and he has his second touchdown of that first half.
Now, Leaf, what did you think of the matchup here? Crawford on Major first half.
Well, really, it's a classic matchup. Major's a good, tough, aggressive corner, and Crawford, all kinds of speed, great receiver. But, you know, if I was a betting man, I would have given the nod early to Derek Crawford. But you know what? Chris Major, with this kind of physical play, I think really had the edge in the first half, and I'm going to give the edge to him. Two great players, and it's really been fun watching that matchup develop.
Got a couple of BC Lion newcomers played rather well. Matt Clark played well, and so did Volpe.
Well, Volpe not bad. Mike Trevay, then the inside receiver, pretty good, but they got a long way to go.
All right, here's Gordon.
All right, thanks very much, gentlemen. We've got more to come as our halftime continues. Calgary leads BC by a touchdown in Vancouver.
No turnovers in the opening half at BC Place. Our game of the week continues now as we get set for the second half kickoff. The Calgary Stampeders leading the Lions 17-10. The Stamps set to kick off to get the second half underway. Mark McLaughlin is ready. And John Volpe awaits at the 15 for BC. He's out to the 30, 15-yard return for Volpe, so the Lions start in decent field position. Not terrific. Paul Clatney made the stop that time.
A look at the statistics from the first half. Calgary had the edge in first downs and total yards. John, you mentioned no turnovers. Impressive in that first half. And also very few penalties. It's been pretty much error-free football so far.
Stampeders with an edge in first downs, 14-8. Let's see what the Lions do on Doug Flutie's first possession of the second half. Lions begin at the 30. This is Chris Skinner, and there is nowhere for Skinner to run. Zreko Zizakovic of Ohio State makes the tackle with help from Darryl Hall. And Hall is slightly shaken up.
Darryl Hall in his second season with the Calgary Stampeders, aggressive player, 6'2", 205, nice size for an inside defensive back, and he has been able to work himself nicely into that Calgary lineup. Second season he's been a starter. Go back and have a look and see how it looks like his teammate, maybe Alondra Johnson coming into the middle, clipped him a little bit, but I would suspect that Darryl will be back in the game shortly. Pat Clayton, the trainer who's been around for a long time with Calgary Stampeders, ably taking care of young Darryl Hall.
Chris Skinner got two. This is 2nd and 8. Flutie from the shotgun. Time to throw. Near side for John Volpe, and Volpe very close to a first down up near the 40. Alondra Johnson, number 51, and Junior Thurman, the Stampeder tacklers on that play.
This will be the real test for young John Volpe, how well he catches the football. His running abilities are not questioned, but you know, coming out of university, you're not catching a great deal of footballs in his career at Stanford, so how he will adjust to the passing game of the BC Lions will be the big question mark for him, and so far he looks like he catches the ball pretty well.
It'll be third down for the Lions. They have to get across the 40-yard line. This is third down about a foot. Well, we'll say inches. Flutie will carry himself. Does he get the first down? I think on second effort he might have made it across. This is a Kovac, number 96. Made the stop.
Well, that was a pretty good second effort by Doug Flutie, because initially there was no way he had that first down, but he was able to spin off like a good running back and pick up that first down. You'll see he had a great shot from ground level. Good penetration from number 96, Sreko Zizakovic. But Flutie able to spin off and go for the extra yard.
First down for the Lions out across the 40-yard line now, trailing 17-10. Flutie looking deep and too far, with tight coverage by Kenton Leonard, who is in relief of Darryl Hall. Mike Trevathan was the intended receiver. Pretty good speed.
Yeah, but you know, one of the mistakes a young receiver can make time after time is when he's running for a ball that he really has to turn on the jets for. What you have to do is keep your hands in till the last second. He puts his hands out with about 5 yards to go, and you know, that slows you down. But Mike will look at the film, and probably someone will point it out to him, and he'll learn from that mistake. But keep your hands in until the last possible second, then throw them out.
Flutie back in a hurry on 2nd and 10, and on target for Tony Hunter, who has room. Hunter has an opportunity. Tony Hunter, touchdown. 69-yard touchdown. And the Lions back within 1. Watch for a great block when we show you the replay. I don't know who made it, but somebody got rid of a couple of Calgary Stampeders.
A great time once again for Doug Flutie to throw. He's able to step up into the pocket and deliver a strike, and what looked like a harmless hook pattern turns into a pretty exciting run by Tony Hunter, and it just shows you with a guy with a little bit of speed what he can do to a defense. And 69 yards later, the BC Lions are 1 point away from tying up this ball game.
Now they are even. 69 yards for Tony Hunter, and the BC Lions are back to even with the Calgary Stampeders early in the 3rd quarter at the stadium at BC Place. Tony Hunter has the BC Lions back to even at 17 with the Calgary Stampeders.
That's a great pattern by Tony Hunter. Works it down the field against the zone. Now he sits down in the open spot. There it is. And now the fun starts. Good block by Mike Trevathan. I think that's what you were looking for.
He got 2 of them, Lee.
Yeah, Matt Clark got a block, and Tony Hunter takes it all the way. 5'8", 160 pounds with a great deal of speed. And boy, you know, the impressive thing to me, that is a great run, great catch, but the offensive line is really doing a number on that Calgary front 4.
Stampeders on the return now. Here's Ron Hopkins. Stumbles and makes it out to the 40-yard line, a 19-yard return. Norman Jefferson led the Lion tacklers there. Good ball game going at BC Place.
Well, it really is. The last time Calgary scored their first touchdown of the ball game, Danny Barrett was able to take the kickoff and answer it very quickly with his own 13-yard touchdown run. So we'll see what he's able to do here. We're nicely underway in the 3rd quarter here. 17-17. Has not been a turnover yet in this ball game. I'm not trying to jinx either team, but it's been an error-free game. Very entertaining game.
From the 44, first down Stampeders. Barrett for Crawford, and that's a first down just shy of the 50-yard line. Stopped by Chris Major.
Well, he runs a nice hook pattern. About the 3rd time he's made the catch on that particular play tonight, and watch, he works to get that separation. The best thing he does, though, is come back to the quarterback and gives the quarterback a nice angle to get the ball into him, and Derek Crawford and Chris Major having themselves a pretty good matchup.
T. Van Jenkins carries after a 14-yard gain by Crawford. And Jenkins grabs about 2.5, maybe 3 yards.
The Lions have had 2 touchdown drives, both highlighted by big plays. This one goes 5 plays, 80 yards, and of course the big play is Tony the Wiz Hunter going 69 yards for the score.
Tony the Wiz. Gain of 2, 2nd and 8. Stampeders at the 49. The intended receiver was Alan Pitts. It was high and outside. Third down as Matic comes in for Calgary now. Led the CFL in punting. 2 years in a row. Nice average going tonight. Hunter and Jefferson are back. This is Tony Hunter. Inside the 5. Slowed down there by good coverage from Dave Sapunjas, number 25, and a 44-yard kick. Helps out Matich's average just a little bit. Paul Clapney leading the Stampeder tacklers.
We saw Daryl Hall leave the field earlier. What happened was his helmet slipped down and put some pressure on his eye. The doctors have checked it out. He's put an ice pack over the eye to try to keep the swelling down. No word on whether or not he'll be back. He's got some blurry vision right now.
So that means that number 30, Kenton Leonard, who was the designated import, will come into the ball game and take Daryl Hall's spot.
Lions begin this drive deep in their own zone. 1st and 10 from the 10. This is John Volpe, and Volpe has his best run of the night. First down as he slashes out across the 20-yard line to about the 24. Charles Anthony stops him after a 13-yard gain.
You know, an interesting thought about Volpe at only 5'7". I mean, he can hide in behind this offensive line, and he gets a good trap block from 58 Rocco Romano, but he's a tough guy for the defense to see as he's coming through there. And boy, by the time you see him, he's got a full head of steam, and he's 5'7", 195 pounds, very strong in the upper body, and he looks like he's going to be a pretty interesting guy to watch this season.
And here he comes again, John Volpe. Not quite as successful that time. Juan Brandon, number 97, and Kenton Leonard make the stop. At 5'7", it makes Flutie feel pretty comfortable back there because he doesn't have to reach up for a handoff.
No,
he can put it right in the old breadbasket.
They're on the same level there. In fact, Flutie towers over him at 5'10". John Volpe, 5 years he spent at Stanford, was able to put together a master's degree in engineering, so he's a pretty smart guy.
2nd and 5 Lions now from the 29. Flutie's had good protection, and he is picked off. First turnover, Alondra Johnson. Hunter was the intended receiver. Error-free football. Well,
it's
not
over.
Quite. It's over.
It's over, and Ronnie Hopkins followed Tony Hunter into the middle of the field, and Alondra Johnson, with his tremendous speed at 5'11" and 230 pounds, works his way across and makes a beautiful interception. And this is where he will really add a dimension to that defense of the Calgary Stampeders. Joe Clossy did a pretty good job in the middle last year, but there's no question they have improved themselves in team speed with Alondra Johnson in there. And as you can see, his first interception of the season sets up a nice situation for Danny Barrett.
Yes, it is 1st and 10 from the BC 33. Barrett goes to the far side for Pee Wee Smith. Good coverage by Norman Jefferson, as Smith went nowhere after making the reception.
Well, early you saw Pee Wee Smith catch a little hitch pass like that and beat Norman Jefferson to the outside for a good gain, but that time Norman said, "Fool me once, but not fool me twice," and he comes up and makes a good hit.
Gain of maybe half a yard. They got a loss of 1, 2nd and 11 as they spot the ball there. Sapunjas was the intended receiver, but Barrett was behind him. And Robin Belanger, BC safety, was covering.
I think Bob Abilovich would have to be impressed with the way his defense has played tonight. Certainly they've given up some yardage through the air, no question about that, but well, the Calgary Stampeders had a great opportunity there on the first turnover of the ball game, and the defense played very well and stopped Calgary.
Mark McLaughlin from 42 yards away with Barrett holding. And McLaughlin is on target as the Stampeders regain the lead once more. Calgary out in front by 3. It is 20-17 early in the 3rd quarter at BC Place. After a 42-yard field goal that gave the Stampeders the lead, Mark McLaughlin is ready to kick off once more with Calgary leading 20-17. Deep for the BC Lions. Hunter and Volpe. John Volpe at the 20. Straight into a crowd. He's out near the 40-yard line, about the 39. Stopped by Dwan Brandon and the kicker, Matic.
You saw Alondra Johnson get shaken up on that interception return. He has a bit of tenderness on the outside of his knee. Therapist Pat Clayton says they're going to keep him out for a couple of series and see if it improves.
The interception set up the go-ahead field goal. Let's see what Flutie can do to respond. 1st and 10 Lions at the 39. Outside pattern. Matt Clark makes the catch, number 85. Kenton Leonard, number 30, the stop for Calgary.
Matt Clark, 3rd all-time leading receiver in Montana history, and he had 133 catches in his 4 years down there. It's pretty good.
Bob Obilovich likes those receivers from Montana, doesn't he?
Well, I wonder why. I'm setting you up here.
Well, that's Bob's school. But it was a year or two ago that Bob played there. Volpe fumble, another turnover goes the way of the Calgary Stampeders.
Well, Dan Wicklum, number 35, is the lucky recipient of that fumble. He comes into the football game to play outside linebacker. Matt Finley goes into the middle with the injury to Johnson, and number 35, Danny Wicklum, comes up with that fumble recovery here. Here you see Volpe hit. The ball squirts loose, and there's 35, Wicklum, right there with the recovery. And once again, we didn't have any turnovers. I know I did it. I jinxed it. On successive possessions for the BC Lions, an interception and now a fumble, and the Calgary Stampeders once again have another great opportunity to add to their 3-point lead.
So look where the Stampeders are all of a sudden. 1st down at the BC 39. Calgary leading 20-17. Barrett for Pee Wee Smith in front of Norm Jefferson.
Well, there's no question that the Stampeders obviously felt that they could throw a lot of hook patterns tonight to their wide receivers against the corners of the BC Lions, and they have had great success on both sides with Derek Crawford and here to Pee Wee Smith. Once again, great time for Danny Barrett to throw, and he connects 16 yards downfield to Pee Wee Smith, and you know that the Stampeders would dearly love to take advantage of this turnover and put a little breathing room up on the scoreboard there.
Andy McVeigh's first carry, and he gets down inside the 15-yard line, stopped by Paul Wetmore. 3-year veteran out of Acadia.
Haven't talked much about Andy McVeigh tonight, but he started last season at the fullback spot for the Stampeders, been with the club 5 years from the University of Toronto, and he has done a nice job for him. First time he has handled that football tonight on the ground.
8-yard gain. This is 2nd and 2 Calgary. The BC 16. T. Van Jenkins looks for the 1st down. I'm not sure he got there. He needed 2. Zoc Allen, the middle linebacker, and Stu Hill.
Well, you know, Wally Buono's in a situation where he's playing 3-down football here. 2nd and 2. I think that was clear to hear that Wally would like a measurement. No question, if they're short, they will gamble.
(20-17). Calgary leading. What a season Wally Buono had last year. 11-6-1. Stampeders' first place finish in a lot of years.
Well, I said they would gamble. That's pretty good yard there. I don't know. That improved front four of the BC Lions may dictate that they go for the field goal, which they do.
Here comes Mark McLaughlin once more.
And I'm sure Obi will be yelling out, watch the fake, because this wouldn't be a bad time to do one.
Watch the fake! Dietrich, get outside! He's got a fool!
Mark McLaughlin perfect so far tonight. Barrett holding. Chip shot from 22 yards away. No doubt about it. Back-to-back field goals give the BC Lions 6 points to catch up on the Calgary Stampeders, but 2 turnovers only netting Calgary 6 points. So it could have been a little bit worse. It's 23-17 in the third here in Vancouver.
It's a TSN fact. CFL attendance on average is on the rise. Look at that. Since 1988, it's up over 2,000, about 2,000 fans per game. And here in BC, they've got a pretty decent crowd on hand for the Lions season opener.
Well, the BC Lions trail by 6. Wally Buono. Let's second guess the coach. Should he have gone for the first down and tried to get a touchdown out of that turnover?
Kind of surprised. Wally, I thought, was a little more of a gambler than that, and I thought he would go for the first down and try and put at least one nail in the BC Lion coffin tonight, but he decided that he would take the easy 3 and have a 6-point lead. Talk about attendance. Good crowd tonight for the Argo-Ottawa game in Ottawa. And around 25,000, I suspect, and had the Rocket played, probably had a chance to get up around 30.
Here's our score in the third quarter, 23-17. If you missed it, the Argonauts beating the Ottawa Rough Riders in the very first game of the 91 season. 35-18 was the final. And Lansdowne earlier tonight. John Volpe on the return. He begins at the 22. He has excellent speed. Volpe out to the 35. Not much of a return that time. 17 yards. Andy McVeigh leading the Stampeder tackler.
Well, it's been pretty much a Calgary Stampeder third quarter, although they've only put 6 points on the board, and the BC Lions actually lead the quarter 7-6. But Doug Flutie on the last 2 possessions with turnovers, an interception to Alondra Johnson, a fumble recovery by Dan Wicklum, and it's about time for Mr. Flutie to settle that offense down and get back to some serious work.
Lions begin this drive from the 35. Flutie misses with that strike. Hopkins was covering. The intended receiver is Tony Hunter.
He's beside it.
Well, one of the reasons why Doug Flutie's had so much time to throw the football tonight is the play of his offensive line. And big number 67, Larry Clarkson, at 6'8", 305, absolutely manhandles Will Johnson. And Johnson, no slouch, 16 sacks last year, second in the league. So you saw a perfect example of why Doug Flutie is getting all kinds of time to throw the football tonight.
Hopkins is the injured Calgary Stampeder. Now they've got a few holes to fill in the secondary there. Farrell Hall had a problem earlier.
Without a doubt, one of my favorites in the CFL is Ronnie Hopkins, and he plays a very cagey cornerback. 9-year veteran from Murray State, and the injuries, as you mentioned, starting to creep up.
Ron Hopkins is 691 yards away going into tonight's game in kickoff return yardage to establish a CFL record. It was set by Leo Lewis of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and that is way back when. Back in the middle 60s.
Well, if he stays healthy, there's no reason why he can't do it.
Lions are second down and 10 now. From the 35, BC trailing Calgary 23-17. Flag goes down. Probably a holding call against the Lions as Flutie dances around. Finally finds a receiver. This is John Volpe. And he stopped short of a first down out near the 40-yard line. But I think somebody was in the grasp of a BC Lion offensive player. Matt Finley made the tackle.
Holding. BC number 55. Decline. Third down.
The 6'4" center, Ian Sinclair, out of Miami in his 7th BC season. Caught this time.
Well, Ray Alexander, the veteran, he sees his quarterback in trouble. Now he starts to scramble. Works his way around the field. Unfortunately, Flutie could not find him. It wouldn't have mattered. He gets the holding penalty.
Enter Lou Pasaglia from his 25. This one is to Pee Wee Smith down at the 23, and good coverage by the BC Lions special teams to stop Smith after a good kick by Pasaglia of 47 yards. Now there's a flag down back near midfield as Barrett leads the Calgary Stampeders out offensively once more. 3:47 to play, third quarter. The Stamps are in control so far, 23-17. But good field position is disappearing quickly.
Holding. Calgary number 21. First down.
Phil Collins, newcomer from Southwest Missouri. Boy, the Stampeders have had their share of penalties, 56 yards in total, compared to the more disciplined Lions with 15. Stamps with a first down at the 15. Andy McVay, and he's out across the 30 to the 33. Tackle made by Zach Allen.
What a great play by Danny Barrett to get that ball away. It was a middle screen to Andy McVay, and Gerald Bayless was all over Danny Barrett as he tried to get the football to Andy McVay. There you see the block is missed initially, and Barrett has to get rid of that football quicker than he wanted to, but nevertheless the results were very good as Andy McVay took that center screen, picked up a first down, and injured himself as well on the play.
The Lions getting a little better pass rush tonight, are they, Leaf?
I think a little better. I think both offensive lines have done a heck of a job protecting their quarterback, and there's no question on paper the Lions are better than they were at this point in time last year, better actually than they finished the season. You know, over the Lions, though, the thing that impresses me is it's really a Bob Abilovich style game here. They trail by 6 points, but the one thing that they didn't allow themselves to do last year was to be in a fourth quarter with a chance to win a ball game. Now there's 3 minutes remaining in the third quarter, but hey, they're in this football game. I mean, they trail by 6. They got a great chance to still win this game. That was not the case last year when they went 11-6-1, but he will put his stamp on this team in a hurry, and they will be disciplined. They may not be an overly exciting, spectacularly offensive team, but they will be a much better team and have a much better than that record indicates right there.
Stampeders winning the Western Division, losing in the Western Final to the Edmonton Eskimos. Stampeders looking to finish first in the West again this year. And if they do so, it'll be the first time back-to-back first-place finishes for Calgary since 48-49.
You know, you go back to Bob Abilovich, though, and, you know, there's no question they'll be improved, but improved to what extent? I mean, he's in a tough division. You've got Calgary, Saskatchewan, and Edmonton. Like, how many clubs is he going to leapfrog? I mean, this is a tough division.
Calgary medical staff still attending to the injured Andy McVay, and now Pat Clayton has him at least into a sitting position. Following the game tonight, we'll bring you the Turning Point, brought to you by Armor All. Bob Abilovich, with a record of 4-3 in 7 games as the head coach of the BC Lions last year, made a late run for the playoffs.
Very late.
But missed.
Very late. Let's go back and see what we can happen at the tail end of that play. Andy McVay up the middle, and very difficult. He gets bent back a little bit by number 37, Nico Perkins, the linebacker. Very difficult to speculate what type of injury occurred. I'm sure Gord Miller will find out that information and pass it along to us as quickly as he can.
Stampeders did get a first down, and Barrett goes to work quickly far side for Pitts. Andrew Thomas, number 21, was covering on number 18, Alan Pitts, that time.
Do you get the feeling that the Calgary Stampeder offense has cooled off just a touch here in the third quarter?
Just a little bit, Leaf, yeah. Barrett tries to settle things down now with 2nd and 10 from the 33. Spallettini in the backfield now for Andy McVay. Near side, and Crawford wins that battle with Chris Major for a first down. 12-yard gain.
Well, you talk about the battle in the trenches, and coaches like to tell you that usually will indicate who wins a football game, and tonight both offensive lines clearly winning the battle against the defensive front fours of the teams, and Danny Barrett being afforded a lot of time to throw the football, as well as Doug Flutie on the other side of things.
Another injured player. This time it's a BC Lion, number 4, Gerald Bayless. Missed all of last season. Bayless was really part of the Dunnigan deal that sent Matthew to Toronto. And there were several players involved in that.
Now, I found out what the number 4 indicates on his back. He said, number 1 is God. Number 2 is my family. Number 3 is the football team. And he said, so I'm going to have number 4 for myself.
I guess that makes sense.
It makes sense to Gerald anyway, and that's all that's important.
Unusual number for a defensive lineman.
Very.
First and 10, Stampeders from the 46. Barrett near side. Crawford once more in front of Chris Major. And that is another Stampeder first down. Out across midfield and into BC territory at the 52.
Back-to-back catches for Derek Crawford on the out with Chris Major. Major softening up just a touch here in the third quarter, giving Crawford a little more room. And
perfect patterns, 2 12-yard gains.
Danny Barrett sees that, takes advantage of it.
2:06 to play, third quarter. Stampeders continue the drive. It began well back in their own zone. Keevan Jenkins has a big hole. And another Stampeder first down inside the 40 at about the 37. Zoc Allen, 44, and Ken Petway finally make the stop on Keevan Jenkins.
Nicely balanced attack that Danny Barrett is throwing at that BC Lion defense. You'll recall the play McVeigh injured on a center screen. Then he goes to a couple of outs to Derek Crawford. Now crosses them up with a draw play to Keevan Jenkins. And you talk about keeping a defense off balance. Danny Barrett and the Calgary Stampeders are doing a super job.
First down at the BC 36 for Dan Barrett. And another completion for Barrett. Major was there, and Crawford made the catch.
Well, you got to like this drive. He's thrown everything at them. Screen, draw, a couple of outs. Now play action, and Derek Crawford has all kinds of time to work his way into the middle of the field. And Chris Major just cannot stay with him. That's a good catch. Saw at the end there, the right leg of Crawford twisted just as he went to the ground. And once again, another injury to the Stampeders. They've been going down like flies tonight.
Crawford over 1,000 yards in 13 games as a wide receiver last year. They call him Stealth in Calgary. That's his new nickname. There's a few new names around the league.
The Stealth Bomber, is that it?
I guess.
We're going to go back and have a look at that again. As I mentioned, watch the right leg of Crawford. It just seems to buckle underneath Chris Major. You're going to have a good look at it right there. There it is, and that is not pretty.
It'd be a rather serious injury for Derek Crawford.
Yeah, I didn't like the look of that one.
Crawford was a Western All-Star last year. Well, this is painful. Ooh. Stampeder medical staff has been busy in the second half in particular. And Derek Crawford is in a great deal of pain down there, having that leg attended to. Backup quarterback Terrence Jones with Wally Buono on the sidelines.
I think Wally would have to be concerned. He's seen Alondra Johnson go down with a knee injury. Daryl Hall's been out. Andy McVeigh now out. And Derek Crawford certainly won't speculate, but you can't feel very good about the look of that hit that he took and the way that knee buckled underneath him.
Numbers for Crawford last season when he was outstanding. He started as a specialty teams player and graduated to a full-time receiver last season. 11 touchdowns, over 1,000 yards.
Add in 3 more on punt returns and I believe 1 on a kickoff return. Only Mike Clements, the pinball, had more combined yardage than Derek Crawford. And, of course, pinball set a new all-time CFL record in combined yardage. So, great season by both those players.
Calgary Stampeders are home to the Saskatchewan Roughriders next Thursday at McMahon Stadium. The BC Lions move on to Winnipeg next Friday. You'll see that game on TSN. The Lions do have a rather tough opening schedule. Stampeders here tonight. Defending Grey Cup champion Blue Bombers next, followed by Edmonton and Toronto. Crawford gets onto the golf cart and will head for medical attention. Tomorrow we head for Taylor Field in Regina, the return of the legend, Ron Lancaster, home to Saskatchewan to coach the Edmonton Eskimos for the very first time in regular season play. Now, do you think Ronnie's got a few butterflies as he sits in Regina tonight?
Well, I would think he does. I mean, a lot going on. The 66 Grey Cup reunion. A lot of his buddies are back in town. I'm sure he has some commitments to see them. He has certainly a huge commitment to get his football club ready to play tomorrow night against a very, very tough Saskatchewan Roughrider team. And I'm looking forward to that game. Should be an interesting contest.
Looking forward to renewing some of our acquaintances with the old Rough Rider guys from that Grey Cup team, Leaf. I wonder if Dushinsky's in town.
I hear he's in town, and I'm not sure there's room for both of us there.
Touchdown, Barrett. Alan Pitts in front of Andrew Thomas. The Stampeders have opened up a rather wide margin on the BC Lions now. Barrett to Alan Pitts.
Not surprising that they might attack the young rookie in the secondary, number 21, Andrew Thomas, and Alan Pitts with a beautiful corner pattern once again all day to throw for Danny Barrett, and Pitts easily in behind the BC Lions secondary, and Calgary Stampeders slowly in this third quarter kind of putting this one away.
McLaughlin adds the extra point, and now it's 30-17. Lions haven't been able to move the football at all in the second half.
Well, a couple of turnovers hurt them, cost them 6 points, and now the Calgary Stampeders on a beautiful drive engineered by Danny Barrett, where he gave the BC Lions a number of different looks on a number of different play selections, and of course it's all capped off by Alan Pitts, who's having himself a pretty good night. He had a great year as a rookie receiver last year, and he had 9 catches and 2 touchdowns in preseason, so he has probably been the most consistent of the Calgary receivers, even though Derek Crawford probably the most exciting.
Well, even though the Stampeders are leading on the scoreboard, the bad news is it appears Derek Crawford has a broken ankle. They're taking him to hospital for x-rays, but the Stamps physicians are pretty sure it's a broken ankle.
That's awfully tough news for the Calgary Stampeders and Derek Crawford. There's John Volpe, the new running back for the BC Lions. Stopped by Charles Anthony, the new defensive halfback for the Calgary Stampeders. Volpe, number 23, picks up 23 yards on that return. There is a flag down, however, near the 40. Stampeders charged with rough play, I believe, Leaf.
I think it was 35. Dan Wicklum took a shot at somebody, and the officials happened to see it, so that will give Doug Flutie a much better opportunity with that extra 15 yards, and he really needs to get something generated here. Only 38 seconds left in the third quarter, but he sees himself behind by 13, and that's a long way to get back against this tough Calgary defense.
But the Lions have great field position beginning here from the 52. Flutie on target. Tony Hunter, big first down for the BC Lions. They need a spark. Darcy Cup, number 32, led the Stampeder tacklers to Mr. Hunter on that one.
Well, this play is a combination of things. Look at the sight lines to the left for Doug Flutie. He has great vision downfield created by the blocking up front of the offensive line. Tony Hunter does a good job finding the hole, and that's the way great offensive plays are created.
This should be the last play of the third quarter, and John Volpe has a first down as the Lions continue the march. Charles Anthony and Dwayne Brandon making the tackle as the third quarter ends, with the Calgary Stampeders holding a rather comfortable advantage right now, but the BC Lions are threatening to score. It's 30-17 Stampeders, and we'll continue in a moment. At BC Place, the Stampeders out in front. of the BC Lions, 30-17, but the Lions have an opportunity to get back into the game right here. It is first down BC at the Calgary 23. Big charge on Flutie, and Volpe couldn't hang on to the pass.
Pretty good call by Doug Flutie, trying to get the screen into John Volpe over the middle, although Alondra Johnson, number 51, was pretty close by, but just could not hang on to this one. Boy, had he been able to hang on, though, I think he had some room to get that thing downfield.
It is 2nd and 10, Lions at the Calgary 23. Flutie steps up, almost intercepted, then it is. Picked off by Junior Thurman on a deflection. Alondra Johnson had an opportunity for his second interception of the night. It slipped through his mitts and went right to Junior Thurman.
Well, the story of the second half, turnovers just hurting the BC Lions, killing drives for them. As you mentioned, Alondra Johnson should have had it. And Junior Thurman is the lucky recipient of that tipped football, and the Calgary Stampeders have their third turnover, the third turnover committed by the BC Lions.
Previous two cost the Lions a couple of field goals. This cost them a scoring opportunity. Barrett to the far side for Pitts. Not much room out there as Ken Petway was in on close coverage. Gain of about 5.
Leaf, you mentioned the turnovers, and the two of them both led to points. They were field goals by Mark McLaughlin, and Calgary now with the edge in total yards. And look at first downs, 21-13.
They have slowly started to dominate this football game. It looked like BC was coming back just a touch, but it's been all Calgary here in the third quarter.
Pee-wee Smith couldn't hang on to that pass from Dan Barrett out near the 30. Norm Jefferson was with him, and Andrew Thomas was nearby as well.
Nice evening's work for Danny Barrett. No turnovers. That's the great feature about this Calgary club. They just simply don't beat themselves, and that has been the case tonight.
The Stamps do look rather sharp, don't they, Leaf?
Oh, they are hitting on all cylinders. Defense is playing well, and the offense really in sync.
Tony Hunter set for the BC return. And there is nowhere for Hunter to go. Good upfield tackle by Kenton Leonard. He is another rookie out of Nicholls State, 5'9", 170 pounds, and sharing a CFL spotlight in his first professional game during a regular season. Stamps lead it 30-17. We're into the fourth in Vancouver.
On their opening drive of the football game, the Calgary Stampeders hit the scoreboard. Danny Barrett in from 4 yards out to make it 7-0. The Lions got on the board in the second quarter. Lou Pasanglia with the field goal to make it 7-3. But the Stampeders answered that. Mark McLaughlin from 19 yards out to make it a 7-point lead. Then Doug Flutie to Chris Skinner, 42-yard pass and run touchdown to tie it at 10. But on the next possession, back came Calgary. Danny Barrett with his second rushing touchdown of the game to make it 17-10 at the half. In the third quarter, interception. First of all, to tie it at 69-yard pass to Tony Hunter. Then in the third quarter, Mark McLaughlin from 42 yards out, 20-17. Then McLaughlin from 27 yards out. Both came as a result of turnovers. And then Danny Barrett hooked up with Alan Pitts from 21 yards out, 30-17, and that's where we are now in the fourth quarter.
And Danny Barrett has 300 yards passing. He's been good on 23 of 37 and thrown a couple of touchdown passes and run for 2 himself.
He has had a very nice evening, Danny Barrett, in his opening game of the 1991 season.
13:08 to go. We're into the fourth quarter now. 1st and 10 for the Lions. BC begins this drive from the 47. Let's see what Flutie can do here. Looking deep. Hunter, the intended receiver, and Junior Thurman was there. Ray Alexander, number 88, the intended receiver. Correction there.
Once again, Larry Clarkson on Will Johnson, and he's got a pretty good grip on Will there. Look at the size difference. I mean, Larry is huge, absolutely huge at 6'8", 305, and there's just no way that Will Johnson can get around him.
2nd and 10 Lions from the 47. shotgun formation. Flutie deep once more. And he's got Clark. Big play down to the 10-yard line. Kenton Leonard and Dan Wicklum over to get Clark. One of the receiving rookies from Montana gets 53 yards on this play.
And he shows some tremendous speed down the sidelines, getting in behind Kenton Leonard. And boy, you cannot throw the football any better than Flutie does. He has all kinds of time to set up in that pocket, and he delivers a perfect strike. And boy, that is a beautiful catch by the young rookie, Matt Clark.
John Volpe has his first pro touchdown. Close within a touchdown.
Well, just when it looked like the BC Lions were down and out, trailing by 13, Doug Flutie with the long bomb to Matt Clark, and now crossing up the Calgary defense, running the trap to John Volpe. He picks up his first touchdown, and they have put themselves right back in this ball game. And remember, folks, the opener last year here, 35-35 at the end of regulation time, and finishing at 38-38. Oh, we could be well on our way to that kind of finish again tonight.
Wouldn't that be something?
That'd be great.
Well, a big night for the rookie, John Volpe. First CFL touchdown. Played pretty well.
Well, there's no question Doug Flutie really crossed up the Calgary defense there. All the defensive linemen rushing upfield, and they run a little trap and a good block, and John Volpe makes it into the end zone. Nice play call by Doug Flutie.
6-point ball game right now, and there's lots of time to go.
There he is. Nice young man. A nice chat with him before the game. And you know what he said to me? I thought it was kind of interesting. You know, he was just surprised at how good the talent was in the Canadian Football League. Now, granted, he's only played a couple of preseason games and now in his first, but you know, he said, you know, I was just like a typical guy coming up to the United States. I figured there was only one league on this planet, and that was the NFL. But he said, boy, was I shocked when I saw how good the players are in the Canadian Football League.
Pee Wee Smith lets it roll out. Volpe had 177 yards in a couple of preseason games. He is pint-sized but explosive. Lou Pasaglia will kick off once more. This is Smith on the return. And he's got room down the sidelines, forced out by Lou Pasaglia. So the Stampeders come right back and have great field position on a 29-yard return by Pee Wee Smith.
The big play, BC Lions strike again. The drive covers 3 plays. The big one, of course, the 53-yard pass to Matt Clark, and John Volpe caps it off with his first CFL touchdown. And yes, the Calgary Stampeders are talking about what happened to them last year here.
They had a lead. The Lions came back and tied things up and took it to overtime. This is first down Stampeders. Andy McVeigh. And he gets inside the 35. Stopped by 44 Zach Allen and number 12 Norman Jefferson.
Great pattern for the Calgary Stampeders. You know, they get Andy McVeigh out into the flat quickly, and that's a long way for the middle linebacker Zach Allen to have to come across the field and make the play. And good call on first down, and that's really been the story for the Stampeders tonight. Their first down production has been excellent. Many times finding themselves in 2nd and 3, 2nd and 2, and Danny Barrett has done a good job in that capacity.
And right here, another first down from the 35. Kevan Jenkins grabs better than 6. Jenkins played 5 games for the Calgary Stampeders last year and then was forced out with an injury. He has come back. He is stronger than he was last year. The Lions, or Stampeders rather, never lost with Kevan Jenkins in the lineup last year. They were 4-0-1. Great start for Calgary last season. They mark it a gain of 7, so it is 2nd and 3. Stampeders have the ball at the BC 28. And Jenkins has the first down. Dietrich Wise, number 78, in to stop Keevan Jenkins, who began his CFL career as a BC Lion.
He had some great years with the Lions and was out of football for a little bit, now back and running the football quite well tonight.
So from the BC 24, another Calgary first down. Keevan Jenkins, and he is forced back on the other side of the 20-yard line by Zach Allen and Dietrich Wise.
Let's take you back in time to 1 year ago. The BC Lions taking on the Calgary Stampeders. Doug Flutie's first game, and with just 8 ticks on the clock, Flutie hooked up with Ray Alexander for the touchdown to send the game to overtime. Flutie with a prayer answered by Alexander, and the Lions are hoping for a repeat performance tonight.
2nd and 6. Stampeders at the 20. Barrett looks for running room to the outside, and he comes up short of the first down. Zach Allen slowing him down and finally forcing him out.
Well, I really like the call by Danny Barrett. Normally he can outrun most guys, but Zach Allen shows that as a newcomer, the middle linebacker's got some pretty good speed himself, and he runs down Danny Barrett from behind. And the BC Lions answer the call on defense as they tighten it up at the right time and bring in Mark McLaughlin to attempt that field goal. There's number 44, Zach Allen. He's Texas A&I leading tackler down there, and he shows you why there as he's able to run down a pretty fast quarterback from behind.
25-yard field goal tried, and McLaughlin is good once more. So the Stampeders add to their total, and it is now 33-24. There's lots of time left with 8:37 to go in the fourth quarter at BC Place. Well, Mark McLaughlin good on 4 of 4 field goals, and really that is the difference in this ball game as we look at a 33-24 score right now. McLaughlin 4 for 4, his longest from 42 yards away. Very powerful kicker. He gets set to kick off to the Lions now. And BC could really use a great special teams effort right here.
Yes, they could.
Big return. We haven't seen one from the Lions so far tonight.
And probably one of the reasons why is the Calgary Stampeders play the special teams as well as any team in the league at covering and returning kicks. And all night they have not given the BC Lion return men any room to maneuver up the field.
And no room there. Tony Hunter was in the neighborhood, but the ball trickled out down near the 23-yard line.
Hard to figure why so many kickoffs are going out of bounds tonight. It's not like they're really scared of any of the returners on the field tonight, and maybe they're just trying to kick it to a little area, and Mark McLaughlin being a little too fine with that, and instead of putting it into a spot, just missed it out of bounds a little bit.
Lots of new faces on the BC Lions. 8 rookies who have never played a professional game in the lineup. And there are 5 new veterans playing their first game for BC, including a couple of pretty good players on defense. Number 36, Stu Hill, you see there, and Gerald Bayless.
Now, it's interesting with Bob Obilovich, you know, a coach in the past who has always liked to have veterans on his team. Now he finds himself in a situation where he has no choice but to play rookies, and, you know, they will make mistakes. So a new situation for Bob Obilovich this year as he takes over in his first full season as head coach of the Lions.
Decent return of 21 yards for Tony Hunter, forced out by DeJuan Brandon. So it'll be first down for the Lions out near the 50-yard line.
Therapist Pat Clayton confirms that Derek Crawford has a fracture and dislocation of his ankle. Clayton calls the injury very serious. They're going to take Crawford back to Calgary, where they think surgery may be necessary.
Well, that's tough news for the Calgary Stampeders. Lions with a first down. Flutie in trouble, eludes it. And Flutie's first big run of the night nets a first down. Junior Thurman made the stop. 12 yards for Doug Flutie.
Well, you know, Kent Warnick, one of the fearsome pass rushers of the Calgary Stampeders, has been kind of quiet tonight, and you know, a guy like Rocco Romano's done an excellent job on him. We're going to have a look at that, and it does create an opening for Doug Flutie to take off and go upfield. In fact, it's Groenwagen and Romano double team him, but the Warrior has not been heard from.
Alexander nets another BC first down in front of Thurman and Darrell Hall. 13 yards for Ray Alexander from Doug Flutie. Lions are rolling. 7:40 to go, fourth quarter.
Nice to get Ray Alexander involved, too. He had a spectacular year for the Lions last season. 65 catches, over 1,000 yards, and he's really their #1 gunner.
And another first down. Hopkins makes the stop on Tony Hunter. Impressive drive by Doug Flutie.
Well, both teams tonight enjoying a great deal of success running the hook patterns, and the wide receivers are finding the open lanes in the zone defenses. The quarterbacks are getting lots of time to throw, and it's a lot of fun to watch.
Another 14 yards. Flutie has to pull it down. Now looks for someone open, and not quite. Trevathan, number 77. Couldn't quite squeeze that toss from Doug Flutie. So to 2nd and 10. The Lions all the way down to the BC 22. (21 of 35), approaching 400 yards. 2 interceptions, 2 touchdowns for Flutie. And tight coverage on Hunter.
Should have had it.
Yeah. Ron Hopkins.
Oh, no question. He should have had it. You know, he's made some great catches tonight. Had a beautiful touchdown pass, but well, with 6 minutes remaining, you have to come up with the big play. Ran a good out pattern. The ball was right on target, but Tony, you gotta squeeze it.
Squeeze the tamale.
Yeah. That's a tough one.
Flutie will hold. Pasaglia will try for 3. 29-yard field goal try for Pasaglia. And that's no problem.
Well, that's a good one, though. It draws them within 6, and now they're a touchdown away. So those 3 points were very vital for the BC Lions.
Yeah, they had to come up with a field goal and a touchdown. And they have the field goal. So it's 33-27, and we'll continue from BC. 6:26 to play, fourth quarter. We've got a 6-point ball game cooking at BC Place tonight. Stampeders have the advantage right now. Tomorrow we move on to Taylor Field, Regina. 9:30 Eastern start as the Eskimos and the Saskatchewan Roughriders kick off the 1991 season. And then Saturday, Winnipeg and the Ticats from Ivor Wynne, a 7:30 start Eastern time there. A busy week as we get a quick tour of 6 teams in the Canadian Football League in 3 nights.
A couple of rookie coaches in that Hamilton game. Darryl Rogers with the Bombers, David Beckman with the Ticats, and a great old friend of mine, John Payne, has returned to the Canadian Football League.
Yeah.
A coach with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Look forward to seeing him.
This is Hopkins on the kickoff return. Dragged down from behind by Ken Petway. 27 yards. Good field position for the Stampeders, thanks to Ron Hopkins.
A great test for the BC Lion defense. You know, they've overhauled that whole group, and now with 6:20 remaining, fourth quarter, you trail by 6, you need the ball back. Interesting to see how they react. Danny Barrett, good news for him. He's got great field position with which to work.
Stampeders begin at the 49, and Barrett drops back quickly. Over the middle and on target for Marshall Toner. In front of Robin Belanger. Toner's first reception of the night.
Well, I've always been a big fan of Marshall Toner. He's had some injuries in the last few years, but getting a chance now to play in the fourth quarter with the injury to Derek Crawford. That means that Alan Pitts moves to the outside, and Toner comes in to handle the slot back duties along with David Sapungis.
21 for Toner, and a first down for the Stampeders at the BC 40. Keyvan Jenkins grabs a couple. Met by Gerald Bayless, number 4.
Well, this is where the BC Lions would like to have them. They've got 2nd and 8, long yardage situation, and boy, there's been a time to tee off from the front 4. Here it is.
With 5:10 to go, Stampeders down by 6, and Barrett gets time to unload, but Pitts can't hang on. Chris Major covering on Alan Pitts, who's moved outside.
Great protection up front. The blitz was coming, and Barrett had all day to throw the football. Alan Pitts should have made the catch. We're going to have a good look at it right here. He runs a good move to the outside. The ball is delivered, and that's a catch that should be made. Nevertheless, the good news is they don't pick up the first down, but they have an opportunity for Mark McLaughlin to add to that 6-point lead.
McLaughlin good on a 42-yarder earlier, as well as 3 previous field goals. And he is now 5 for 5.
So we have called him the difference in this game, and each game that we do this year on TSN, we're going to show you in the third quarter who we feel has been the difference in the game so far. Tonight, Mark McLaughlin with his 5 field goals, perfect record on the evening, we feel has been the difference so far in this ball game.
And it's back to a 9-point advantage for the Calgary Stampeders with 4:39 to go.
All set up really by the good kickoff return to give them field position. Then you're only a couple of first downs away from some possible points, which they were able to get on that field goal. So once again, as they have for the last few years, the special teams playing a great factor for the Stampeders in their success.
What do you figure, Leaf? Special teams about 30% of an evening's work?
Yeah, I would say so.
Somewhere in there. John Volpe, let's see what he can do with it. Well, he gets a decent return out to the 45. 26 yards, stopped by Paul Clapney. So the focus shifts to Doug Flutie once more. Trailing by 9 with 4:32 to go. Lions really need the touchdown this time, don't they? BC beginning from the 45. Flutie with time, far side, and on target. Mike Trevathan, number 77.
Boy, he's a good-looking young receiver. He's got the nice size, 6'1", 205. He's made some good catches tonight, done some very positive things for that offense, and boy, that's tough starting 2 rookie slot backs, but both of them look like they're pretty comfortable out there, and Matt Clark's going to make a great catch here.
Number 85, Matt Clark, is Trevathan's running mate from Montana. Charles Anthony makes the stop on Clark.
They didn't stop the clock.
So 2 15-yard gains by the Montana receivers. Oh, Clark almost had that one too. He got in behind Hopkins. And Charles Anthony.
I think Anthony got pretty lucky there. As Clark was breaking free, he got a hand on him and just knocked him enough off his pass route that he wasn't able to come up with a spectacular catch here. But
2nd and 10 Lions from the 38. Alexander breaks the tackle and he's inside the 20.
What a great move. Pick up some extra yardage. Ray Alexander, always dangerous when he catches the football, and once again they go to that hook pattern to the wide receiver, which has been so successful for both teams tonight. Alexander with some pretty nifty footwork picks up some extra yardage.
Wally thinks they might go to the quarterback draw. 1st and 10, Stampeders. Rather, Lions at the Stampeders 15. Here's Flutie on the run. I think that's only the 2nd time he's rushed the ball tonight.
A good call, play action. You got Wally yelling from the sidelines, watch the draw. So, you know, he's got his guys thinking run. And what does Flutie do? He play action, freezes the linebackers, and he gets to the outside. Now, if his wide receiver's open, he can throw it. If not, he can run and pick up 8 yards as he did.
So it'll be 2nd and 2. The 3-minute warning is out on the field here at BC Place. Doug Flutie has the Lions still alive, although they trail Calgary 36-27 with 3 minutes to go in the 4th. Well, the Lions live. 2:53 to play. And Doug Flutie has engineered a rather impressive march here that has BC down inside the 15 at the 10-yard line, but it's 2nd and 2.
Well, they need a touchdown and a field goal, as you indicated a few moments ago. It would really help the cause if they were able to get the touchdown here and then worry about trying to get a field goal later. It's been an entertaining football game for the first game. I feel like the defensive linemen on both teams have kind of tired out here in the second half, and not much pressure being put on either quarterback.
Flutie's had a pretty good night in the stats department. 25 of 38, 411 yards. There are 2 interceptions on the scorecard, though, and
well, it wasn't a killer. 6 points off the interceptions, and that wasn't the big problem area. 411 yards passing, though. Boy, he should be pretty proud of that.
2nd and 2 for the Lions at the Stampeder 10-yard line. Volpe has the first down. John Volpe stopped by Alondra Johnson and Darcy Kopp. 2:32 to play. First down and goal to go. Lions from the 5. Here's Flutie looking to the end zone. Touchdown. Tony Hunter.
Well, he ran a great pattern on Junior Thurman. It was a good throw by Doug Flutie. Hunter's got his 2nd touchdown of the night, and the BC Lions are determined to give us a thrilling finish here tonight. Tony Hunter spins to the outside. Thurman can't stay with him.
2nd touchdown of the night for Tony Hunter. Another convert for Lou Pasaglia. And the Lions have battled back.
What a nice pattern by Tony Hunter. He was even questionable as to whether he was going to start this game at the wide receiver spot, but he started and has a couple of touchdowns, made some great catches, and now it will be really interesting to see how they kick off. Lou Pasaglia has not been booming the ball deep tonight. The Calgary Stampeders have been able to get great field position on their returns, and boy, the BC Lions would love to be able to pin Calgary deep and have a chance to get that ball back.
A 2-point ball game. Calgary leading 36-34. 2:23 to play. And here's Pasaglia. Takes it deep. On the return for the Stampeders, Pee Wee Smith. Stopped by Zoc Allen. 23-yard return. And again, the Stampeders have decent field position as Barrett trots out one more time.
Well, Doug Flutie directs a nifty drive for the Lions, takes them 65 yards for the score, and you hear the crowd. They're calling for the Lions defense to stop Calgary now.
2:18 to go. Oh, Major almost picked it off. Alan Pitts was the intended receiver, and whoa, that was close.
That's why you have to like a guy like Chris Major. You know, he's Calgary receivers have caught probably six balls on out patterns tonight, and he read Danny Barrett's eyes all the way, and he broke on the football, and oh my, should have almost had that interception, but nevertheless, that was a pretty good play.
2nd and 10, Stampeders now. 2:13 to go. Calgary back at the 43. Barrett. Sapunjas dropped the ball. Andrew Thomas covering on Dave Sapunjas. Uh-oh. Is this slipping away?
Well, tough night for young David Sapunjas. He's made a couple of catches, but he had a touchdown pass that he should have been able to catch. And boy, oh boy, when you're trying to run the clock out with a 2-point lead and you do everything right. I mean, this is a perfect pattern to the outside, and he should have made that catch.
Matic, a booming punt. Tony Hunter waits for it. Lost the ball. Stampeders have it. Calgary Stampeders on the turnover might be able to lock this one up now. Dan Wicklum coming up with a fumble recovery. Or was it Darcy Cup? 32 or 35? We'll check it out.
This has been a real problem area for the Lions in preseason, and the ball is knocked loose from Tony Hunter. Darcy Cup is there to knock it out of bounds. The Calgary Stampeders. Wow.
Fourth turnover by the BC Lions. .155 to go. Kevan Jenkins has nowhere to go. Jenkins might have lost a yard.
I think Danny Barrett's going to be pretty careful here. I think he would like to say, hey, let my guy kick 3. We'll take a 5-point lead and force them to score a touchdown.
2nd and 10. Stampeders at the 27. Barrett looks deep, and Jefferson is the closest ball player to it. It was intended for Alan Pitts.
Well, he tried to run a hook and go, but Norm Jefferson would have nothing to do with it. And I really had the feeling Danny Barrett just said, heck, I'm throwing this thing away. We're going to bring the kicker in. And as we mentioned, force BC then to score a touchdown.
Well, there's time for the Lions to do that. 1:28 remaining. 36-34 is the score. The Lions have been down all night, but they haven't given up yet. McLaughlin good on 5 of 5. His longest from 44. This from 35. And it's good. So a perfect night for field goal kicker Mark McLaughlin. 39-34. BC touchdown, can still win it with 1:24 to go. Bob Obilovich coached the BC Lions in 7 games last year after taking over from Larry Kuharich. He has a record of 4 wins and 3 losses. The Lions are first down at the 35. 1:23 to go. Flutie steps up.
He's got a man.
Hunter! All right. In behind the coverage, in behind Charles Anthony. Hang on. Flag down, back at the 25. 45 yards for Tony Hunter. Will they bring it back? I think they may.
Can you believe it?
Holding. BC number 67. First down repeated.
Larry Clarkson holding.
Boy,
well,
oh boy.
There are lonelier places to be than in front of a home crowd after a holding call nullifies a 45-yard.
But the BC
game.
Lions, you know, they have not got a break all night. The fumble, big play called back. I mean, you got to feel sorry for Obi there. I mean, what a beautiful pass play to Tony Hunter. It all comes back. Wow.
Throwing situation for Flutie with 1:16 to go and 1st and 20. Flutie gets out of bounds. And maybe grabbed a couple. I'm not sure how many he got. Alondro Johnson and Finley had the coverage on Flutie that time.
Now, it's funny, I was watching Larry Clarkson again on Will Johnson there after that big crucial holding call, and really think the officials were being kind to him again. They could have got him twice in a row.
They're calling this 2nd and 20 with 1:09 to go. Stampeders lead by 5. Pretty well it for the Lions. Right now, Flutie is down. Cut from behind by Will Johnson, number 81. Second sack of the night for Will Johnson.
Yeah, he got one way back in the first series of the game for the BC or for the Calgary Stampeders.
Now, Lions are going to kick.
Well, the fans don't like it, but really, I mean, you got 3rd and what, 25? I mean, you got to kick.
3rd and 23, really. Stampeders secondary will drop back and give some yardage up. A minute 2 to go.
Wally Buono, I guess, calls a pretty smart timeout here. He wants to have a talk with his punt return team and just tell them to be on the lookout for a fake. Lou Pasaglia, of course, was a quarterback way back in his Simon Fraser days. And Wally just trying to cover all the bases here and make sure that everybody knows what's expected of them.
A minute 2 to go. 3rd and 23. Lou Pasaglia gets set to kick from inside his 10. Rolling by Pee Wee Smith. He's chased back to the 35 and forced out at the 39 by Robin Boulanger. 54-yard kick by Lou Pasaglia. 52 seconds to go. The Lions have to figure a way to get the ball back.
Well, after their last 2 series, the Stampeder players came off the field wondering why they hadn't run the ball more and taken more time off the clock. As Danny Barrett goes on this time, it appears they won't make that mistake again. But on both occasions, the Stampeders were 2 plays and out, and they didn't take much time off the clock.
Well, 52 seconds remain right now. 1st and 10, Stampeders beginning this drive from the 39. 5-point ball game. And nowhere to go for Keevan Jenkins. 49 seconds to go now. Gerald Bayless leading the Lion tacklers on that play.
Well, I think if in fact the BC Lions go on to lose this football game, as it appears they will, and it's going to be a frustrating loss for Bob Abilovich in the home opener here. They've certainly had an opportunity here in the 4th quarter to come out with a win, but just mistakes, a couple of turnovers, fumbled, punt, things like that, killing the BC Lions. On the other hand, the Calgary Stampeders will say, hey, we've done some things well tonight, but we should have put this game away in the 4th quarter, and we didn't have the opportunity. The next time we're in this position, we will make sure that we do just that.
Barrett gunned down by Zoc Allen, the middle linebacker, and O.J. Brigance from Rice, another rookie linebacker.
Now, the BC linebackers are all excited about that sack, and I guess rightfully so. But, you know, Danny Barrett just shows why he is a veteran and plays with a great deal of poise. He made sure he took the sack, didn't throw it, take a chance, keep the clock running, and a pretty smart play by Danny Barrett.
24 seconds to go. Stampeders in a kicking situation. The Lions rather desperate for a big return here. 1 man back, Tony Hunter.
Oh, you got to go for the block.
Brent Matich back at his 15. Here comes the charge. Matich gets it away. Hunter at the 40. 17 seconds to go as Hunter steps up with 15 left now. A 38-yard kick for Matich there, and one last chance for Flutie here. A 5-point ball game. The Lions have 15 seconds to get a touchdown, and now they're marching more yardage off against BC.
Number 12. First down.
Herman Jefferson for holding. The Lions' hole is just a little deeper. (39-34), first down Lions with 15 seconds to play, fourth quarter. Flutie elects to run, and now there are 8 seconds to go. He did get a first down, but that's of little consequence right now. Walter Ballard over to make the tackle.
Well, look for number 88 at the top of your screen, Ray Alexander. He's the guy that you want to go to in a situation like this when you have to let it fly, and here he gets the football.
Alexander running out of time. He doesn't get to the end zone or anywhere near it. And doesn't get out of bounds in time. So the Stampeders come away with a hard-fought 39-34 win over the BC Lions. Leaf, the Lions had some chances, didn't they?
Well, they had their chances. On the Calgary Stampeders side of things, they have to say, look, we opened on the road. We were the best road team in the CFL last year. It wasn't pretty at the end, but a win's a win, and we're undefeated as we start this 1991 season.
So Wally Buono and the Stampeders begin the way they began last year. Although the first game was a tie, they have a win here and are unbeaten after one game. Stampeders win it 39-34 over the Lions.
Time now for the TSN Turning Point, brought to you by Armor All Car Wash. It comes late in the fourth quarter. The crowd on its feet. The Lions about to get the football, but Tony Hunter can only hold on to it for a few seconds. The man who scored 2 touchdowns in the football game has it stripped away by Ken Leonard. And with that football, with the Lions' chances of winning the football game. A cash donation will be made to the Coaches Association of Canada on behalf of TSN and Armor All Car Wash. pH balance so it won't strip your car. Once again, the final score from BC Place. The Calgary Stampeders 39, the BC Lions 34. We'll be back in a moment on the CFL Game of the Week in just a moment. Our coverage of Week 1 of the CFL season continues tomorrow night at 9:30 Eastern Time as the Edmonton Eskimos take on the Saskatchewan Roughriders at Taylor Field. It's a rematch of last year's playoff meeting, which was won by the Edmonton Eskimos. From there, it's on to Ivor-Wynne Stadium in Hamilton, where the Ticats will play host to the defending Grey Cup champion Winnipeg Blue Bombers. That game comes your way on Saturday, a 7:30 Eastern Time start. And before that game, we will have the CFL report from Hamilton. Included in the show will be the debut of the Homeboys series featuring the most valuable player last year in the CFL, Mike the Pinball Clemens. CFL report comes your way July 13th at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. The CFL Game of the Week on TSN has been brought to you by Diet 7-Up. It's cool to be clear. Once again, our final score, the Calgary Stampeders hang on to beat the BC Lions 39-34. For all of us at TSN, good night from Vancouver.